to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, joined as always by Dave McDonald. Dave, long time no talk.
Justin, very long time no talk, buddy.
Yeah, I apologize for all of you who've been wondering where we've been. Dave was in Vegas, and then I got sick.
Back yesterday, actually.
Yeah, I just got back yesterday. I was sick, and then I got sick again, unfortunately. So I'm just getting over this latest sickness. No COVID-like symptoms. So I put myself in the IL for a little bit, and I'm now well enough to and tested negative enough times to make it back. But we are back. We're in full force. We will be back weekly, and we have guests, and I have an amazing guest today. We have Michael Waterloo from The Athletic, from Fantasy Pros, from the Game Day. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on. And Justin, glad you're feeling better. And Dave, I don't know how you're doing this after Vegas, man, but kudos to you.
He got back like a month ago. We just haven't recorded together since then.
Yeah, no, Justin just doesn't tell me shit. So when he's sick and stuff, if I just don't hear from him, I'm just assuming we're not potting that day.
Gotcha.
I'll get back on schedule.
That's our communication level.
Yeah. It's been a rough few weeks for me. So, but we're back in ready to roll. And we're happy to have Michael on. Michael, remind everybody where you reach on social media, and then talk about what you do at all those spots that you work.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on social media at Michael Waterloo. Very original from a longtime Twitter user. So I wish I had something cooler to do there. But yeah, at The Athletic, I'm kind of I started as the points leagues guy because there wasn't really a following there, and where I could find the niche, I found it. So I kind of do a lot of points league stuff there, and a little other fun stuff for them too. Some overall notebook stuff that I'm working on that I'll be having out for them. And then for Fantasy Pros, I do the 2-pitch pitcher column every week, as well as the 10 burning questions, which I know, Justin, you have your wonderful thing you sent out that we no longer need any more hot takes. But it's basically my hot take column every single week that drops on Fantasy Pros that I really enjoy doing. And then at the Game Day, a lot of betting writing, and as well as some sleeper pitchers that I write every Thursday for them. So 3 great organizations I love working for.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show. You were doing the Lord's work, though, in terms of points league coverage, because most people play in points leagues. I know, shockingly, when you listen to podcasts, read articles, almost everything in the industry is catered towards roto. But points leagues, and especially shallow points leagues, are the most popular formats in fantasy baseball. Something like 70% of fantasy baseball players play points leagues. But they're so hard to write for because everybody's league is different. How do you even go about giving content for that?
It's not easy. And I, right at the beginning, kind of like if I was writing for a dynasty league, it's impossible for me to cover every single intricate detail that you may have because no 2 leagues are the same. So I kind of cover that at the beginning and just say, hey, the kind of grandfathers of the points leagues are kind of CBS. So I say, this is the kind of the scoring that I'm using. Just make sure that you fluctuate a little bit. Look at the Fangraphs auction calculators, kind of adjust your scoring as you can there, but kind of use my writing, my rankings, kind of my thoughts as a launching point for you and kind of tweak from there. So that's kind of the way I do it, but it is very challenging. It's more challenging to write about points leagues than it is kind of roto or head to head for me, just because of that reason. And, you're just accumulating the points. So it's very different, but it's something I enjoy doing.
And for those of you who don't know, Michael has a pinned tweet on his Twitter where he actually has a spreadsheet that he keeps track of. He has player rankings in points leagues, and he has fantasy points per game and how many points they have overall, the percentage that they're rostered. Now, I actually had just come across this maybe a day or 2 ago, because I follow you and I saw something. I saw Manoah was your number 1 ranked player, and I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Not overly surprising, but now my question is, when you have the percent rostered there, what is that based on? What types of leagues are those?
That's based on Fantrax points leagues, actually. So that's
Okay.
based on 12-team rosters, because point leagues are pretty shallow typically. You usually don't have the corner or the middle infielders, usually 3 outfielders, and relief pitchers aren't really valued as much in those
Right.
formats either. So I figured 12 teams kind of the best basis for that, to kind of give everybody a basic idea. But yeah, thanks for shouting that out, Dave. I try to update
No
that
problem.
as often as I can, pretty
Yeah.
daily, just to kind of highlight the top performers, see the changing in the rosters, the points per game, and some people who are trending either up or down. So yeah, you can check that out at top of my Twitter page almost every day.
Yeah, and like so many other people, I got my start in points leagues. I played Fanball. I'm trying to even think CDM sports games. Like Vlad and I used to play back in the day together. Like we did like budget baseball, and they had the Diamond Challenge. And actually, NFBC has the Diamond Challenge now there, so they actually have some points game offerings as well. But once I kind of got into Roto, I like the last 15 years, I really haven't done any points league since then. But every once in a while, I see those salary games and I get a little excited still, because like I had such fond memories from those. And I just loved like the idea of you have $60 million and like, how do you spend it on? You can pick whatever players you want, but where do you best put your, which salary to which spots to do the best? And, something like this spreadsheet really helps you out with that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a fun format to do. We talk about the 15 team, the 5x5 so often, that this is kind of like a nice little thing, just as a side thing to kind of have something different and mix it up a little bit like that. And it's a good way to get started, like you talked about, Dave, a long time ago. The reason that fantasy football is so popular, because, well, you have to, there's Sunday games and that's about it. But it's
so
also,
much easier than baseball.
Yeah,
that's why
it really is. But it's also simple to see that, like, okay, a touchdown pass is worth this much. This is worth this much. So for baseball, singles worth 1 point, doubles worth 2 points. It's a great way to introduce people to the game that we love here, and it's just kind of they can be challenging in their own right, but it's a very nice introductory form of fantasy baseball. And then from there, you can kind of have that evolution like you've had, where you go off to NFBC, you go off to category leagues, to the Roto League. So it's definitely a fun format. And like Justin said, it's very popular, but just doesn't get as much coverage as you see for the other type of formats.
Gotta admit too, it's really nice to get points for things like, it sucks when you're playing Roto and you see your guy hit a double or triple and then they don't even get a run or an RBI out of it. And you're like, son of a bitch, it's the same thing as hitting a single. It's like you didn't get anything out of it other than that. Or even a walk, you get a point in points league. So
it's also, I think it fosters a sense of competition that is lost a little bit in Roto. Like, people like Dave and I, we talk shit to each other just because we like talking shit, we're friends and stuff like that. But like, there's nothing better than like, your guy hitting a home run, and that's the reason your buddy lost this week. And being able to rub that in his face, or random player X gets a save on Sunday night and you win the week, your buddy loses. I do kind of miss that. Like I didn't like, unlike Dave, like I started playing Roto and stuff like that. But
oh really?
Yeah. My original league was an original rules 4x4 AL only keeper league.
Rotisserie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a group of buddies who started playing fantasy after I'd already played, and they got me into their points league. And like, there was something very fun about like, hey, you get you get like to like trash talk your buddies because you're going up against Jeff this week and Jeff's got to go down. I will say I played in that league for 8 years, and I won the league, like had the best record in the league 7 of those 8 years. I never won that league.
It can be frustrating whenever that happens. Roto's great for that because it rewards the best team overall, but unless it's like kind of high stakes, you see some teams start to kind of fall off around like July or so once they realize they're out of it. But for categories or points, the head-to-head, like, you just need one lucky week. The saying is, make it to the playoffs and then just cross your fingers, hope for the best from there.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what you do. Yeah,
that will always burn, and that league is no longer in existence. A lot of the guys stopped playing. I will never win that league, and like I said, had the best team 7 of the 8 years. If you look at the overall standings, and somehow never won a championship.
Good.
Yeah. And it's something like we're all still in a fantasy football league together because all the guys still play fantasy football, and they remind me of that I'm Mr. like fantasy baseball analyst as a profession, but never won that league. Won the football league a number of times, but the baseball league, I will.
You can't win. You can't win the big game, man. You know, you're like Dan Marino. You know,
apparently,
you know, you just you're not clutch.
Speaking of not clutch, we're going to give out some advice on some players. Let's start with some news. Luis Yurious is back. He injured his quads in the preseason. This is great news for me and my Barf League team, as Dave mentioned prior to us hitting record, is struggling because of injuries. I get him back finally. But Michael, what do you expect from Luis Yurious? Is he a guy you'd be running to the wire to pick up if he got dropped?
He's definitely a guy that I like a lot. And it's funny when you look at just kind of the timeline of that deal, because at first it became the Trent Grisham trade, then it became the Luis Yurious trade whenever he had a good year last year. Now all of a sudden it's the Eric Lauer trade. So it's like, okay, like let's see what Luis Yurious can do. I like him because he's third base eligible. The main question I have is where he's going to hit in that lineup. Is he going to hit 9th at the bottom? If so, that kind of dings his value a little bit for me. But I like him, especially in 15-teamers. He's somebody that I'd like to kind of go out there and get. He's not going to carry you in any category, but I like the bat the ball skills. I think, you can look at maybe 15 home runs, maybe 12 steals the rest of the year. But I mean, I may be kind of being a little too optimistic on the speed there. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that I like. He has a good walk rate, fine Ks, and a big jump in launch angle last year. So I'm hoping he can kind of carry that over this year too.
Dave, what about you? Are you running to the wire to pick up Yurious?
I mean, I think he has triple position eligibility in
most formats.
Yeah. So, that has value right off the bat. He definitely has some pop. I would be shocked at 14 steals. I mean, but hey, you never know. But he had 5, I think, last year. So he was someone who, when I was doing a deep dive on Max EV, because like he had a jump of like 4 miles per hour, and I was like, oh, that's good. But then I looked into it, and he didn't hit anything like that hard in the air. Like I think the 111.5 that was his max was like a ground ball. And it was like that was it. Like the next highest was like way below that. I just don't know how much power he really has, but he's in a good park for power. He did increase his barrel rate dramatically, and like Michael said, he did increase his launch angle. His launch angle was 10 in 2019, but then in 2020 it went way down. So he rebounded very nicely there last year. But I think he'll be a solid contributor. I wouldn't be expecting anything that's going to like save your season or anything, but I love the triple position eligibility. I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be glad is on your team, that you can just, because you're going to have injuries, you're going to have guys going on the COVID list and stuff. It's nice to have a guy that you can throw in there at multiple positions.
Yeah, he's a guy that I agree with Dave. Like, I don't think he's like a double-digit stolen base guy rest away, but 5 to 8 maybe. I do think he can hit 15 plus home runs, and where I think he can really make gains is getting back to being the guy that makes a ton of contact and boost that batting average up. Because I mean, if you remember in the minor leagues, like this was a guy who showed like 90%, 95% zone contact rates in the minor leagues. Like he was a contact guy, and the question was, will he have enough power to like be much more than like Luis Arias? And he showed that last year, right? He showed that he's got some pop in the bat. I don't think the pop is going to take any like major leap forward. I think what we saw last year is probably what he is, or maybe even the ceiling in terms of power. But I do think he has the potential, if he can get back to making more contact within the zone, and keep his swing percentage up. What he did do last year is got more aggressive inside of the zone. He bumped up his swing percentage like 6% last year inside of the zone. If he can continue to do that while, maintaining some good contact numbers within the zone, I think you could see a guy hit, him be like, hey, 15 home runs, rest of the way, 5 stolen bases, but like a 280 batting average. And that becomes a lot more interesting with that triple eligibility. So I think the triple eligibility alone makes him viable in most formats. And if we see him start to kind of put the gains we saw in power last year with what his profile has been before, I could think we could see a really, really interesting player that's probably underrated in fantasy.
I could be wrong, and I'd have to look into it more. But didn't he have to change his whole approach to hit for more power? Like I think he was intentionally sacrificing average in order to hit for more power.
The swing and strike rate went up a little bit, but like less than 2%. And like his zone contact went down from 87 to 85. So like, yes, he sacrificed a little, but when you're as pure of a hitter as he is, like you can sacrifice a little, but still not like, you're not like giving up the farm. You're not like a guy who's like going from, hey, I was striking out 20% of the time to now 28% of the time. Like he's a guy who's probably still going to be under 25% strikeout rate. And like I said, he's been a guy who in the minor leagues has shown the ability to have like a 90% zone contact percentage. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. This is obviously, speculation, projection. I think he has the ability to do it. Once you show those kind of skills, I think you own them. The question is, will he be able to? I think he's worth the gamble of picking up and seeing if he can. All right, let's move on. Ohtani has a groin issue. How worried are you about this? I know he was going to pinch hit last night. I don't know if he did.
Okay, he did pinch hit yesterday. So, if they did that, it can't be too severe. You just hope he didn't, aggravate anything with that, because he really only got like a game off, right? Or was it even a game?
I don't even think I don't think it was a game because I think he got injured on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
or on Saturday. So, any worries for you, Michael?
No, zero. They said after the game he was smiling in the clubhouse. He said he wanted to start the next day, and Joe Madden said, we'll see. So I'm not concerned at all about it. I have maybe like a 0.5 out of 10 concern.
Yeah, it's always something you just want to kind of keep an eye on, especially a guy who's so vital to people's. If you're playing a daily moves formats, obviously he's probably your number one player in your format. And if you're not, he was a first round pick in just about every league. So definitely keep an eye on that. Robinson Cano was DFA'd, which is a bit surprising considering how much money he's owed. Not surprising because it's the Mets and Steve Cohen just has, so much money that he can afford to like sacrifice, I think there's like $37 million left remaining on his deal. Is this the end of Robinson Cano as far as we're concerned there, Michael?
I want to think so. Did Dom Smith single-handedly change kind of the course of action that the Mets were taking on Sunday night with his big, I think, 4-hit game that he had? And it was just like, well, he was a candidate to send down, but we can't do that. It's a bad PR move right now. So they get rid of Cano instead, who just like it's funny, before the season, when you look at the projection models, they had no idea what to do with Robinson Cano. You have this older guy who's coming off this long suspension. So they're like, you know what, screw it. We're just going to slap on the same projections that we had a few years ago. And we're just going to say, hey, whatever happens, happens. But he just, I'm not optimistic he has a lot left. I don't know if you saw, but Jose Ramirez had a interesting quote. He said, Robinson Cano is a player who can fit in very well with any team. He's a star who can contribute a lot to any team. So I don't know if he's trying to do Robinson Cano to Cleveland there or what he's doing there.
He's just trying to get our team to spend money. It's not going to work, Jose. Nice try.
Well, you don't have to spend any money because the Mets are eating it all. All you have to do is spend league minimum.
Yeah, that's a big ask to the Dolans, buddy.
It is, yeah. That's like a 30th of your guys' salary or your.
Yeah, it really is.
That's why if I had to guess, like he seems like he's the perfect Oakland A. Like at this point, just like slap him there, see what happens, and like maybe he can bring more, like 5,000 fans to the ballpark instead of 3,000, and kind of go from there. But as far as for fantasy, yeah, I was admittedly pretty excited because I thought he was going to get regular DH time. He just didn't do anything with it, so I'm kind of moving on. And good career, Robinson. But yeah, see you later,
Dave. And you think he's done?
Yeah, probably. I mean, he's 39, coming off of missing the last, he missed all of 2021 and, only the short season before that. His strikeout percentage has doubled. It's early, but I don't know. I don't think there's much left in the tank there. I don't think if you're a team like I mean, nothing against what you just said, but I'm just like, if I'm the Oakland A's, like why even bother? You let's see what you got in some of those young guys. Like they've actually got some guys hitting right now. I'm kind of, there's a lot of A's that I'm looking to pick up these days. You got Sheldon Noyes kind of coming out of nowhere. Chad Pinder getting more playing time. There's Kevin Smith they've got there. Laureano's going to be coming back soon. That team can actually be kind of exciting if they keep giving their young guys some chances. So that's kind of the direction that I'd like to see them take. And I'm hoping that the Guardians don't sign Cano, because I mean, they didn't spend any money and they actually played their young players. And hey, our offense is actually doing really well somehow. I have no idea how, but it's really nice to see, Owen Miller and Stephen Kwan and all these guys coming together. Jimenez, everybody except for Amed Rosario. God damn it. But yeah, so I think Cano's probably done, and he should certainly be off your radar in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, he might get a chance, but I think he's probably depth anywhere he lands.
Yeah,
maybe Baltimore. Like Baltimore is running out Rugneto door right now. Like,
but again, like, what's Baltimore? Why bother? It's not like they have a chance
to play. I mean, I wonder if like a competing team that's dealing with injuries, like I like the Giants, for instance, like they're dealing with like a lot of COVID, a lot of injuries. They could potentially, use him as like backup depth or something like that. But I mean, I think if he does end up on a team, he also could end up being, designated again, by the said team.
That's the thing. So, do you really want to do that to Robinson Cano? Like, I don't know if he really wants to sign on somewhere for like a week or two and then get DFA'd again. Like,
he may just pack up his $37 million and go home. Like,
yeah, poor guy.
Go play Dominican ball. MJ Melendez making his debut. Cam Gallagher is got like a grade 2 calf strain or hamstring strain. Can't remember which one it was. And they're bringing up Melendez to be the backup catcher and supposedly going to play out in the field a little bit. For those who don't know, Melendez was kind of blocked because obviously Sal Perez is really, really good. And so they've been letting him play in the minor leagues. He hit 42 home runs between AA and AAA in 2021 with like a 288 batting average, if I'm remembering correctly. And he's struggled a little bit, though he's shown some pop so far in AAA, but he's also been playing multiple positions. Dave, any interest in MJ Melendez?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're talking about a guy who has catcher eligibility, the bar is so much lower for you to start with. But I mean, like you said, this is a guy who mashed last year. I mean, he had 41 homers and 3 steals, hit like 290 between AA and AAA. So, when I was on Toby, James Anderson and I did a catcher's pod for RotoWire in the off season, and James was gushing about him. He loves him. And yeah, like it's weird, but all of the Kansas City, all of their farm clubs and their big league clubs are all struggling to hit the ball. I don't know if they've got a different ball or if it's I don't know what hijinks are going on here, but something seems to be, because he's hitting 167, but he does have 2 homers and 3 steals, and a catcher who runs and has 41 homer power. Yeah, you absolutely have to be interested. Plus, they've got they have the DH spot. Obviously, when Sal is catching, Melendez could possibly play DH, and then vice versa. When Sal gets a day off to play DH, then Melendez could play there. He can also play third base. Hunter Dozier is not a guy that they absolutely must give at bats to. So I think that the opportunity is there for him to carve something out there. This isn't necessarily something short term, but I think he will have to hit to stay.
Michael, where are you at on MJ Melendez?
I like him. I'm a big fan of him too. I kind of agree with everything Dave said, especially at catcher. The bar is so low. The bar, like, if you're, I don't want to say like if you're breathing, you want to be on the watch list, but it's pretty close there. And especially with that injury, I'm no doctor, but I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. I'd ask Dave. I think he's the medical professional here, but I think it's about 6 to 8 weeks. So he gets to kind of show what he can do in that time. And with Alberto Mondeci going down, there's a lot of moving pieces there. You can have Whit Merrifield come in, play second base there with Nicky Lopez at shortstop. And then you've seen how they treated Edward Olivares. He's just kind of this yo-yo that they play with. And they have Kyle Isbell there too. But Melendez, if he hits, he's going to play. His K rate is up a little bit, and his walks and OBP are down a little bit, which you don't really like seeing too much. But it's so early that he's definitely a guy that needs to be rostered in all 2 catcher leagues. And for the most part, in regular, like if you're able to wait and see what he's doing a little bit in 12 teamers, if you see he's getting in that lineup semi decently, you're going to run him out there or Jenna Hine. Like you're going to play freaking Melendez. So the bar is so low. Why not take a chance on the upside? And if he doesn't play, if he doesn't hit, then you cut him and you just play catcher roulette again.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I think especially when you can not only get a catcher who could be a difference maker just as a catcher, but the potential for him to be kind of a full-time player with the catcher eligibility is huge. I mean, we saw what it did for Austin Nola a few years ago when he was playing in the field, and even Eric Haas last year, right? He
Sean Murphy this year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting a guy who's playing, close to every day as a catcher and has like actual talent at the dish, like that could just be a huge difference maker. He should be picked up in just about definitely every 2 catcher format, and I think probably should be rostered in even 10-team single catcher formats. Maybe not on your team, but he should be rostered on some team, right?
Yeah, if you don't have a top 5 catcher, I would, they can probably be replaced. So pick him up, stash him on your bench, and see what he does for a week or 2.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, he does have talent. 42 home runs. Like even in the minor leagues where there, some parks are, launching pads and stuff, 42 home runs is no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speed. Like you said, he's got 3 stolen bases already in AAA.
Yeah. That's great.
Just a few plate appearances.
He's never run before, so this is a new development. So I don't know what to make.
Well, and Kansas City likes to run. Someone's got to take over the Mondesi role. we'll get there in a second. But first, Jose Miranda, he's going to debut as well. Didn't play today, but he's going to be working his way up. Miguel Sano is hitting.
I thought he was going to play today. He was in the lineup.
I just checked the lineup. I did not see him. So unless did I miss him?
Shit.
It's not. He's not on the roster yet. But I believe, or he wasn't in the lineup today. But I believe he's going to be in the lineup soon. Miguel Sano hit the IL with a knee issue. So Miranda's coming up.
He went hitless today. He did play though.
Oh. Did they do a doubleheader and I'm just not seeing?
No.
That's so weird because he MLB's box. Oh, I'm looking at yesterday's. There we go. That's the problem. All right.
Now you guys see what I'm dealing with here. So
that's my bad. So yes, he comes up today. He goes hitless.
He did not strike out though, so he at least wasn't overwhelmed. I mean, it was the Orioles pitching, so
Unfortunately for listener Zach, he said he played Miranda in DFS. Sadly, that's he was min price. That happens. All right, Michael, where are you at on Jose Miranda? Is he a guy you're running to the waiver wire for?
So one of the pieces I write every single year for The Athletic, it's the reason that they reached out to me initially is called My Obsessions. And one of my obsessions this year was Jose Miranda. So suffice it to say, I was thrilled with the news whenever I saw he was getting called up, despite some struggles in AAA there. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that I'm running out to get. And I think there's long staying power here if he hits. You can say that for everybody, of course, but Gio Urshela, I'm just not a fan of. I think there's a real chance that Miranda can just kind of take over everyday playing time, even whenever the Twins get back to full health. I think he has that kind of upside. There was a debate going on today because it was Twitter, and that's what fantasy baseball on Twitter does, between I think Alec Bohm and Jose Miranda were the two people there. Yeah, Dave, you would know nothing about that. I see your Twitter. There's no debates coming there. But I think it was Miranda and Alec Bohm, and just kind of saying, okay, like that's an interesting comparison there. And I'm Team Miranda there. I trust the power a lot more. I trust the skill set a lot more. And he's a guy that I'm making a priority to pick up in my leagues.
And his launching will probably be above like 3. So that's also over Bohm.
Yes. He has met ground balls he does not like.
Dave, where are you at of Miranda?
Yeah, I'm a fan. The thing I really like about him is last year he hit 30 homers, but here's the thing. He also struck out like between 11 and 13%. The rookies who struggle, we've been over this before. I always talk about this. The reason that I loved Stephen Kwan so much this year is because the guy does not swing and miss. The guys who have 25% plus K rates in the minors come up and struggle because, hey, guess what? Big league pitching, pretty tough. So, the guys who have like the 10 to 15% K percentage in the minors, those are the kind of guys who adjust much quicker and much better to the majors. So I love guys like this because he's got legit power and he can make contact. So it's just a matter of whether he gets legit run there or not. And, you have to pick him up and see if he does.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys initially. I think there's more risk to Jose Miranda than maybe people are giving credit for. I think right now he's got a roll. Miguel Sano's hurt. I don't even know is Alex Kirilloff back, but even if he's not, or even when he gets back, Kirilloff's just like, a tall blade of grass away from another injury. So the problem is Jose Miranda is really good at lots of things and really bad at one thing. However, that one thing is defense. And that is half of the game in real life baseball. And it's something we don't talk enough about in fantasy. Because if you're bad defensively, you are going to struggle to find playing time, especially when you have guys like Miguel Sano and Alex Kirilloff on your roster that need to occupy the DH too, right? So I think if Miranda hits, they'll figure it out, right? And right now there is a path to playing time. Once Miguel Sano comes back, once Alex Kirilloff comes back, if he is not hitting, or if like they want to make room, that may be a problem. I think I'd get aggressive right now, especially in shallower formats where there's replacement value on the wire if there does become a roster crunch later. But there is risk, and we're going to talk about a guy that proves this kind of theory here next with Josh Lowe. Like, it's great to go after prospects. We want to go after prospects when they're coming up, but we also want to remember that, like, there's an old adage, prospects are suspect till proven otherwise. And I'm excited about Jose Miranda as well, but there is going to be risk here. I agree with what Dave said, though. There's power and there's hit tool. Hit tool is the most important thing I want to see from a guy coming up in the minor leagues. It's the reason why Josh Lowe is down and Jose Miranda is up, because, whether the ball is dead or alive, like, hit tool kind of helps guys survive. Miranda's got that. I do think he could be really, really good. I don't think it's going to be a third base. Gio Urshela, I disagree with Michael completely, is not losing that job because Gio Urshela is
really good,
good defender, and they care a lot about defense in Minnesota. I think if anybody's going to lose their job long term, it's Miguel Sano, because Miguel Sano is not good defensively and he strikes out a crap ton. And so if anybody's going to lose that job long term, it's going to be Miguel Sano, which could easily happen because I think Miranda's long time or permanent home or long-term home is either at first base or DH. He can't play third base.
Yeah, I could see that. And I was pulling up Urshela's defensive metrics because Last year, I believe they weren't that good. I think he graded 37th out of 43.
Really?
Third baseman and outs above average. I do believe so. But he's back to being a fine defender this year. But whenever you look at his hits too, he has 17 hits on this season. 16 of those are singles. He too really, really likes hitting ground balls. So defense is huge. And since his defense is kind of back up, yeah, I think that's kind of gives him a leg up. But if we see that slip and Miranda just hits, I think he sticks. I think it could be at third base, but you know, first base makes sense too. Even though shape of his life, Miguel Sano, you know, he
generous carriage.
Yes, exactly. So, it's going to be interesting. I'm more optimistic for the long term. I think I end up projecting him for 450 plate appearances. With 278, 323, 448 triple slash with 18 home runs and 110 runs RBIs combined. So I am in on Miranda. Again, these are also my obsessions. So they're people that I'm going to be more optimistic and hopeful on than, you know, most people. We can ignore the other ones because they're bad off the bad starts and just hope the Miranda kind of proves everybody else wrong and me right.
Yeah, I mean, it like I said in my soliloquy on him, it all depends on whether he hits. You know, the playing time with all of these guys is pretty dependent. You know, I feel pretty good about, you know, Bobby Witt keeping his role and Julio Rodriguez keeping his role. But other than that, anytime you draft a prospect, you always have to back them up. You always have to have another guy that you're ready to put in if they don't work out. Anytime I draft anybody with any kind of, I'm glad Justin brought this up because there are always risks, and it's especially prevalent with prospects. You always have to be building your team around the fact that you have to assume worst case scenario when it comes to guys with higher risks like that. If you're drafting someone who's super injury prone or someone who's a prospect, you need to back them up with other players that you can put in, and you don't want to drop someone that you know is a contributor for you because you don't know if these guys are going to be or not. I'm only picking them up in places where they're a bonus if they hit. I don't rely on them. I picked up Jose Miranda and Melendez in Fantrax leagues. I didn't start either of them this week. This is a wait and see period. I'm just looking to see what they are, but if they hit, they could really hit. That's the thing. You know, it's better than having some mediocre guy on the end of your roster, you know, that's not going to really have any impact on whether you know, like a Gavin Sheets or something. He's not going to be the difference between winning and losing a league, but these guys might be.
Especially, I mean, you know, what was the position everybody was complaining about? Outside of closer,
catcher,
was third base, right? Third base is so weak. Third base. Well, he may not play much third base, but he is third base eligible because that's the position he retained. So, like, you know, he may end up DHing, or where did he play today? What do you know?
Third base he played.
Okay, so he played third base today.
He hit sixth and played third. Yeah, and
I'll take that. Minnesota's lineup. Yeah, Minnesota's lineup's been pretty good. So, I mean, I would take the gamble. I think I would. But I agree with Dave.
But don't spend $550 on him in Fab.
Because there were lots of people. This is a great transition. Why Dave's the best in the business, right? So we're just gonna get on that segue and transition right to Josh Lowe, who people did spend $500 plus in some leagues.
Friend of yours, in fact.
Buddy, in my main event, you know, Dalton Del Don spent $555. But he wasn't alone. A lot of people spent a lot of money on Josh Lowe and are regretting this. And what I said when it was announced he was going to make his debut in the majors after the Austin Meadows trade was he's got power, he's got speed, he swings and misses an awful lot. You know, 30% strikeout rates in the minor leagues, you know, prior to this call up. And so it's like there's a lot of risk here. He could definitely be a guy who is great, hits a lot of home runs, steals a lot of bases, but he could also be in the minors before May. I was wrong about before May. It happened May 1st. But Michael, where are you at on Josh Lowe? Is he a guy you would continue to roster in hopes that he comes back up?
I hate to take the out, but it's all like it just depends on my roster makeup to see if I have a lot of injuries, like if I have any NA spots that I can stash him in, if I'm kind of like really counting on that shallow bench. I definitely need a bigger bench to keep him right now, or an NA spot, a minor league spot. I have a couple of those, and I have Josh Lowe in those right now. But we knew coming into the season that the talent was there. He has the power speed profile. We also knew that there were very, very big concerns around the strikeouts, and we saw it at a 38% clip. And what's kind of, what we're seeing more and more pitchers throw sliders this year as opposed to kind of fastballs. Like we're seeing that continued growth with pitchers throwing sliders. Josh Lowe is seeing four-seamers 41% of the time, and he's hitting 120 against it. So, like you said, like he's struggling against the fastball. We saw this last year with Jarren Duran, who just these young guys kind of catching up to the major league fastballs at this level. They're just not able to do it yet. And that's what we're seeing with Lowe. I love the outlook for him long term. And I think there's still a lot to like for this year too. But I'm only holding on to him if I have that extra room. But when my roster gets down to that crunch, when the inevitable injuries come, whenever there's that hot guy like future all-star and maybe MVP Jose Miranda out there on your wire that you want to add to your roster, I'm not going to hesitate dropping Josh Lowe.
Dave, what are you doing with Josh Lowe?
If you have no injuries and nobody that you're stashing, and it's a deep league and the replacement value sucks, you can hold them. But it could be a month, it could be 3 months. He might not ever come back up. I don't know about you guys, but I have multiple injuries and stashes in leagues, and I'm not a stash guy. But in every league, I'm holding guys who I can't drop right now because I'm expecting them back soon, or because they're an impact player, like a Chris Sale, who I thought would be back sooner than he ended up being out for. And I'm just dropping low and moving on, because even when he comes back, that K rate is still that K rate. He was a 25% plus guy in the minors, came up 38% here. It's not that he can't improve on that. He can, but I would need to see like a 20% K rate or lower in the minors before thinking that he's going to really be a different hitter here. So I'm not really holding out hope for this year.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. Like if you're in a prime situation where you don't, or if you some leagues have minor league slots even for redraft leagues.
Sure, in those, yeah.
You're obviously keeping in keeper dynasty leagues, right? I've got him. The only place I think I have him is in a dynasty league. And obviously I'm going to continue to hold on to him there. But
yeah,
if there's any question, then the answer is probably cut. Like if you're thinking about like him having to decide between this guy and that guy, you cut the guy who not only struck out just a huge amount of time, but plays for the Tampa Bay Rays, an organization that puts a premium on getting on base and not striking out, and doesn't really care about their young guys in terms of hey, we got to make sure this guy's getting plate appearances in the majors. You move on. And hope maybe you can get him back later if there's an opportunity, or you hope that maybe someone else rustles him and clogs up a fucking roster spot. Because I agree, there's a legitimate chance we don't see him again. They still have Vidal Brujan down there, and they just have random player acts that they'll bring up, and they've been playing with Harold Ramirez at first base randomly, So
Harold Ramirez is one of those annoying guys who they're like, oh, he's a professional.
I've got him in a lot of DCs.
He comes up and you think it's gonna be a short-term stay, and there you get into September and he's still up, hitting 265 with 12 homers, but he's just good enough to not get rid of, and they're we don't feel good enough about bringing any of our minor leaguers up, so he's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Let's pour it out for Alberto Mondeci, who is out for the season, most likely. I wrote down for the season. I don't know that that's really been confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it is at this point. He tore an ACL, and you know, it was fun while it lasted. My question, and I think I will start with Michael on this one because I think I know what Dave says here. Is Mondesi done as the player that people will continuously weirdly draft in the third, second, first, fourth round? Or will there always be Mondesi truthers? I think there's a legit chance he gets.
You can just say his name. Will there always be Siege? Yes, Siege will always exist.
Or I think there's a legit chance he gets non-tendered in the offseason. Where are you at on Mondesi for the future?
Just what the hell are we doing? Why do we do this every year? Like nobody's celebrating injuries. I feel bad for him. I feel so bad for him. He can't stay healthy. But what did we expect? We see this every year, and it's not just even the injury angle. It's just I'm going to give you my number one piece of advice that I give people. You guys ready? Tune in. Listen. When you're drafting players, draft people who are actually good at the game of baseball. Alberto Mondeci is not good at baseball. He is a fast player, and we can see what he can do. We know he has a little bit of power. We know he has these hot weeks that can carry you, and we get burned every single year by it. So are we done doing this? No, because if it's Kansas City that gets rid of him, some other team's going to bring him in. He's going to go to Arizona, have a really hot Arizona Fall League. People are like, oh my God, Mondesi, here we go. We're going to see spring training. We're going to see him steal 3 bags in two games. So you're going to have 7th round Alberto Mondesi for 2023. He's going to let you down again. And then 2024, he's still somehow going to be a 5th or 6th round pick. It's a never ending cycle until he's out of the league for good. So it's just, I feel bad. I hope he's healthy. I hope I'm wrong. He is just not a good baseball player. He is not a good baseball player. So for everybody who was able to win your category with steals, congratulations. Your season's done in steals. Meanwhile, Julio Rodriguez keeps stealing bases.
Luckily for me, I got Mondesi in 2 leagues this year. One was the triple play league. I can't remember who my replacement there is going to be. That's going to be hard because it's a DC, so I don't know how I'm going to make up for that. However, in the other league was Tout Wars, and I do have a $2 Julio Rodriguez. So he is making up for those speed. Dave, it's all right. You can say it. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on Mondesi? Are we done with Mondesi?
No, I mean, I've been done with him. I've never drafted Mondesi once, but we as a community will never be done with anybody like him because people are so intrigued. I mean, Michael said everything, but it's just people always look at everything with rose-colored glasses. It's always, but what if he stays healthy? But what if he's not bad anymore? And then those 43 steals become 75 steals and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to win the overall because of it. I mean, I've been listening to it all off season about how this is a guy that you're going to win an overall with and stuff like that. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? His career high in plate appearances is 443. He's been playing since 2016. I mean, he's not good at baseball, like Michael said. And you know, it's not like Buxton where at least you have the ill-advised hope that he stays healthy. I mean, this is a guy who's not only injury prone, but sucks on top of that. So I get that he runs well, but you got to find your steals other places. You just have to. And like you said, it's never about celebrating injuries. When a guy gets injured that you're expecting to get injured, you're celebrating your process of saying, okay, I successfully avoided that landmine. It's never saying, okay, I'm happy this guy got injured. Of course, no human being wants any other human. Well, not no, but most human beings don't want other human beings to be hurt. It's just that you want to say, I was correct in avoiding this huge landmine, and I will continue to avoid this landmine. And I hope other people who keep rostering him learn to move on because you need to. It's time.
I mean, I think he's good because he doesn't get the opportunity to come back in September and steal 13 bases or whatever it would be. Like, I think he will be much cheaper next year. I'll be interested to see where that ends up being.
I want to look at his career stats by month because, like you said, I think September is like
it's unreal
month. Like,
yeah.
Like he cost me a live event league versus Lindy because Lindy was fucking left for dead. picked up Mondesi in like June. Like,
did we lose Dave?
The rest of his team just. Oh, am I out?
You're back.
Oh,
we got you back.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
You're good.
That's what Mondesi does.
Yeah.
Dave got so angry over Mondesi that he froze.
He goes on these binges in September, and then I think that just sticks in people's minds, and they're like, "Okay."
It absolutely does. I mean, it absolutely does.
It's recency bias.
I do, like I said, I do wonder. I mean, we'll have to see. Like I said, he easily could be a non-tender candidate for Kansas City this this upcoming offseason. We have no idea like how long. Will he be one of the guys that like, hey, he's not going to be ready till May. That will obviously affect his draft spot and draft price. Here's what I will say. Saying that like he's somehow less risky than Byron Buxton, who was going in the second round, I think is silly. Yes, Buxton has a little bit better hit profile, but they're virtually the same player. Like it's just like I don't get the argument. That Buxton should have been going that much higher than Mondesi this year. I think they both have the same injury risk profile. I hope Buxton stays healthy. I want to see Buxton healthy. I love watching Buxton play. And I've drafted Buxton in the past before, but like I don't get the argument that somehow Buxton was any safer than
from an injury
Mondesi.
Perspective, no, but Buxton is a legit elite player and Mondesi sucks.
Mondesi is a bad hitter.
Right.
Mondesi's a good defender. So like he's not bad at baseball. Like I would push back against the idea that he's bad at baseball. He's a bad hitter.
Okay. He's very bad for what we need for fantasy baseball.
Absolutely.
One category. So for real life baseball, there's value there. But yes, I like drafting players who are good hitters, who are good at like.
It told me a lot that Kansas City said that they didn't want him to play every day because like he defensively is good enough to make a difference on the field for them. And what they were saying, like they didn't trust his health because they weren't willing to play him every day. And they were hoping that playing him 120 games would keep him healthy. I wish I hadn't drafted him. I'll be honest. I shouldn't have. I could not resist in the 5th round of a draft or for $12, I think it was in Tout Wars. But lesson learned, even though it's just Charlie Brown kicking the football. I traded Mondesi in a dynasty league prior or after this injury. I packaged him and the next guy we're talking about, that's why I'm bringing it up, together to get Jose Ramirez and Charlie Morton. So I traded Eloy Jimenez and Alberto Mondeci in a dynasty league for Charlie Morton and Jose Ramirez OBP league, which helps too as well. Both Eloy and Mondesi are not OBP guys. Eloy's going to miss some time here. I think at least a month or two after tearing a hamstring. Are you holding on to Eloy, Dave?
No, I mean, okay. Again, when I answer these questions, I'm always thinking of from a 15-team roto perspective. If it does depend on your league and how, if you have like a huge bench, or obviously if you're in a keeper, you're not dropping many of those kind of places. But in a 15-team league, like the main event, you have to, in my opinion, like you can't be holding guys like this on your bench. You're gonna be taking zeros because you're gonna have other injuries to deal with. You're gonna have COVID to deal with. And we saw what happened when Eloy came back last year. He was not Eloy yet. I mean, a lot of people expect these guys to come off the IL and just like hit the ground running. Occasionally that happens. It depends on the injury too. But no, I'm dropping him and moving on in leagues like that.
What about you, Michael? You holding on to Eloy?
In a league like the main event, no, I'm not. But I am trying to keep him around as much as I can. I'd keep him over Josh Lowe. I'd keep him over Mondesi, of course, because he's likely out for the year. Like he's one that I'm trying so hard to keep if I can. But I'm also a sucker for Eloy Jimenez. Like and he's somebody else who is having trouble staying on the field. And this was such a pivotal year for him. I thought the Yordan Alvarez year that we saw last year, I thought we were going to see that from Aloy this year, but he just can't stay on the field. I'm going to be the fool next year and draft him high again because I can't quit him. And I'm just going to be like, oh, this is going to be the year he stays healthy. So as I'm like, but I think he's actually a more skilled player than Alberto Mondeci is. I really do think we see like Nelson Cruz, prime JD Martinez there with his game. And I was really hoping we'd see kind of his plate discipline take a step forward this year, see him take the next step forward against non-fastballs because he just crushes fastballs but struggles against secondary offerings. And we're not going to see that now. And it just sucks. And like Dave said, even if it is the 8-week timetable, then he has to ramp up, then he has to come back, then he has to adjust. Who knows what everything's looking like with the balls and everything that we've seen early on. And I'm always, if somebody says they're out 8 weeks, I'm always going to add a week or two to that. Like, I think that's kind of this safe way to go about it. So it's really just out of my own pride, my own spite that I'm going to try to keep him around just because I want to believe in the talent so bad. But if push comes to shove, I'm okay getting rid of him.
You know, you just named a bunch of DHs there when you were comparing his skill set. And I know, but seriously, like, that's the issue. I've watched that guy play the field. He is a disaster. He is a walking injury. Like, he cannot stay healthy when you put him in the outfield. He needs to be a DH. If they bring him back next year and he plays DH, I'm interested. I stayed away from him this year because I've watched him hurt himself doing everything in the outfield. I don't want any part of it.
I mean, well, he hurt himself. He hurt himself in spring training last year. Remember? He was
running into the wall.
And running into the wall here to shoulder, and I think it limited him to what 55 games or something like that last year. So, like you said, like, and the thing is with the White Sox, they have so many of those types of players. You know, you have Andrew.
It'll be easier next year though with Jose Abreu being gone. Like, Andrew Vaughn can be the everyday first baseman,
right?
Eloy
playing the outfield now, so
I think Eloy probably is the everyday DH when he comes back,
and that's what you want to see. If you're going to invest in him next year, make sure he's a DH. That's what I'm looking for, anyways. Personally,
here's the problem though. Like, on top of now, because he's injury prone, right? I think this is interesting because like we talk, and like Dave and I talk about this a lot. Obviously, in terms of like avoiding injury prone players. We overlooked Eloy, like not necessarily Dave and I, but just in general as the fantasy community.
People don't talk about him enough as an injury
because we like him. Like,
is that why, or is it because he hasn't been around that long? I don't know.
He's missed a lot of time.
He has,
for in the majors and in the minors too. He missed time, like this. So like I think a lot of this was confirmation bias that as an industry, and like I'm part of it. Like, I like Eloy a lot. He's also like a 3-category player.
Yeah.
Like and one of those categories he's been very up and down in at batting average. Like,
oh wait, what is your you mean that's the 4th category, you mean?
No, I was saying that was the 3rd category. I mean, he doesn't necessarily
you mean
score a lot of
runs?
runs.
Bad. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's I wouldn't say it's a plus.
No.
So like, I like Eloy. I'll be interested to see where his price is next year and like how he does when he rebounds. Like, I'm trying to hold on to him in leagues. Barf is one of the leagues I have him in.
The problem is you hold on to him for a week, then you hold on for another week, and then it gets harder and harder to drop them. Then you tell yourself, oh, I've already held on to him this long. I have to keep holding on to him longer. That's why I say you should just cut the cord and drop him immediately.
I'm probably going to drop him next week in Barf. I don't know that I have him anywhere else where I can. I don't think I have him in any other Fab leagues.
It's gonna be September, and Justin and I are gonna be on the pod. I'm like, so Justin, how'd your Eloy share go? He's like, he's coming back this week. I held him the whole time. He's coming back.
Well, the problem is my offense is actually pretty good in Barf. It's my pitching that's just decimated, losing my first 6 starters and 2 closers. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think if you have a real roster crunch, I think it's okay to let him go. Just know someone will swoop him. Like, there's gonna be, it sucks, but let someone else hold on to him. All right, let's talk about Mitch Haniger out 4 to 6 weeks. I had not seen this. This is a bummer for me because I was the anti-Mitch Haniger guy coming into the season, and people talked me out of it. Because I said he was injury prone, and people, including someone on this effing podcast and on my other podcast, talked me out of Mitch Haniger being injury prone. He's not injury prone. He's just been unlucky. It's been a lot of fluky stuff. Fuck you, Dave.
Well, the one injury wasn't like the most notable one, like a testicle injury or something like that.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
How is that going to be?
But he was
like,
injured all throughout the minor leagues. Like, he was injured all throughout the minor leagues. I like Mitch Haniger a lot, and I drafted him in some really important leagues, unfortunately.
Okay, so I haven't looked
bummer.
yet, but do you know that he has like a history of ankle injuries? Because that's what it is. It's like if he
has a history of a lot of just lower body stuff.
I didn't see anything particularly worrying. I had a low injury grade on him, not like a no injury grade, but I wasn't overly concerned. But he just wasn't a guy I was looking to draft anyways. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, if he has a lot of lower body injuries, then that could be a thing. I thought I saw 4 to 6 weeks, but so that's why I put it on there. So if I'm wrong, did you guys hear? Michael, did you see that?
I hadn't heard a timeline. It is a grade 2 high ankle sprain. Typically, those do take like a month or two.
I'm pretty sure. Like, I follow the doctors on Twitter, like Jesse Morse and
Dr.
inside injuries and all that stuff. I thought it was 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, Dr. Dave has been quiet on this though. I haven't gotten anything from him.
Yes, this is unfortunately. Oh, it looks like he got dropped in one of my mains. Oh,
yeah, so that sounds right. Then if he's out for a month to a month and a half, that would probably, some people might drop him.
Would you drop him, Dave?
No, I don't think for 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, unless I was in a place where you are, where your entire bench is already injured, then I would consider it. But no,
I don't have him in my barf league.
Okay, that's good. So you have not every position injured.
I do have him in TGFBI and the auction. But
by the way, for those of you watching live, Justin is actually on Seinfeld right now. He's in the red. I'm
turning red. I'm so angry at you because you talked me out of it or talked me into him.
I didn't talk you into him. I wasn't drafting him myself. I just
so angry. So angry at you and Paul. I will yell at Paul tomorrow.
I told you to draft Tyler McGill everywhere. Why didn't you do that?
I should have. You know what? But yeah, Michael, where are you at on Haniger? You dropping him?
Probably. I wasn't really a big Haniger guy anyway, so I'm kind of less inclined to keep him for my own confirmation bias. But I like it for Jared Kelenic to stay around and for more playing time for Abraham Toro. So I'm all about that.
Kelenic's been so bad.
I mean, he has like, and I have a feeling we're going to get to him later, but it just kind of gives him more lead time where the Mariners aren't going to be maybe as rushed to make that decision. That's probably going to be inevitable anyway. But yeah, I'm just not a big Haniger guy anyway. And Dave, I guess my question for you then, if it's 4 to 6 weeks for him, then Eloy is 6 to 8 weeks. What's that 2 week difference for you as far as holding versus dropping?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I thought I saw that Eloy was out 8 to 10. So if it's 6 to 8, I don't know. Luckily, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't really thought about these questions at all because I don't own either of these guys anywhere. So 4 to 6 weeks is I know I'm okay with. 8 weeks is where it gets sketchy, especially if it. So what is his injury again with Eloy?
It's Eloy's a torn hamstring tendon.
Yeah. That's also tough because hamstrings are often take longer to come back from. Like an ankle injury, I feel better, especially since he's not a steals guy. I feel better that he can come back from that and be okay. I feel like hamstrings often involve setbacks is the problem. So 6 to 8 weeks could easily become, 12 to 14 weeks. But I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying to drop him, but I think either you drop him now or you hold him. Don't wait like a month and then drop him. But I don't know. I've learned it's better to just move on quickly. Usually, even if they end up coming back later, the production that you can pick up between that time is usually worth doing.
Zach has pointed out that my screen has turned into a work of abstract art. I've got to.
How have you still not figured out what this is?
Oh,
and just lost Michael.
We just lost Michael. I really don't know what's going on with my camera. I need to. For those of you listening to the podcast version later, I apologize because you don't know what you can go check it out on YouTube.
Justin's wearing like a red shirt. And his face is naturally red, so he's basically his entire screen is just red right now. Like you can't even see.
I've got the red screen of death. The death. Yes, I am here, and Michael is back. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm gonna take off the last piece of news. I want to get into some of our topics. We're already at an hour, and I know it's late for you guys on the East Coast. We're moving into May. When do you start worrying about the standings there, Dave? Is this something you're already paying attention to, kind of where you're fitting in the standings, or are you not worried until things start to stabilize a little bit more?
In leagues with daily changes, I'm keeping more of an eye on it because I can adjust things a lot quicker there. In like Yahoo leagues and stuff, but in weekly changes leagues, I am looking within the last week. I'm starting to look at where I'm standing in places, but I'm not putting much stock in it yet. Now, obviously, if you don't have any closers in your last place in saves, that shouldn't come as a shock to you. But you might be like really low in batting average right now. Join the club. I mean, there's guys who I am anticipating ending the year with a 300 average who are literally hitting like 120 right now. So I'm just not overly concerned yet. I don't know what the ball is right now. I don't know if they're going to change the ball. It's still cold out, and this is usually the first month is usually when people struggle the most anyways. So I'm not really starting to dig into where I am in the standings most leagues until like mid-June, I would say, is really when I'm going to be taking a hard look to say, okay, this is where I need to make serious adjustments. The guys that are not helping me in these categories, I can no longer assume that they're going to bounce back at this point. So I'm not taking too much into consideration after a month in or less than a month in now, but I'm starting to just kind of casually glance that way right now.
What about you, Michael? When do you start worrying about the standings? Or start doing victory laps because you're at the top of the standings?
Oh, God, those are the most annoying early victory laps where people are insufferable on Twitter.
Yes. Honestly, in my roto leagues, the redraft ones, I can't tell you where I'm at in any of them. I just don't look. I do not look at standings at all right now. In my daily lineup ones, my dynasty, if your team's not going anywhere, you want to kind of make that decision to sell early. But not really until I won't look at the standings until mid-May, and I won't really care until the first week of June. There's some takeaways we can have now, but to me, that's based on my roster. I want to know, okay, this gives me a bigger picture right now than the standings do, to analyze my team, analyze my weaknesses, what I need to do, what I need to address via trade, via fab, anything like that. There's some tangible takeaways, but I don't really think that you should put a lot of stock into it because we're humans and we're very emotional people. And if you do it too soon, you may make some mistakes that you regret. You may kind of overreact and do a over course correct if you look too early. And right now it's still too soon for me. So give it a couple weeks. I'm like, oh, that's where I'm at in this league. Cool. And then come June, I'll be like, all right, now it's, this is where I'm really at. And this is where I start to care. And this is where I need to make the real big changes.
All right, so I'm going to take the exact opposite approach as you guys. I look at the standings about every 30 minutes. The live scoring standings page on NFBC is on my computer nonstop. They mean absolutely nothing at this point.
Right.
However, I don't care about the leagues where I'm doing well. It's great to start off well. It's awesome. I mean, you want to start off well, right? Because you can build on that and continue to play well. I'm more concerned about the leagues where I'm not doing well. Leagues where I'm in 13th, 14th, 15th place. Now I become concerned because those are the leagues I really want to do deep dives on week to week and go, why am I at the bottom? Like, is there a reason? Obviously, like, you look at like my Barf League team, which is probably in 15th place, definitely in 15th place. As I turn and look at the standings on my other computer. And I can go
confirm that. Yeah.
Well, so I go and I look, why is my team? Oh, because my entire fucking team is injured, right? If I go and look at another team that may not be doing well, why is this team is it just, I've got a number of guys who are hitting 210, like Cedric Mullins and Randy Rosarena. Do I think those guys are going to turn it around? Sure. Or is it like, hey, I've got guys like Akil Badu on this roster. I've got guys that maybe like aren't doing well and aren't going to turn it around because they're not getting playing time anymore. Or, they were flash in the pans, or maybe I thought I was identifying a sleeper and they're not a sleeper. They're just a bum. Like, so I'm much more, I like to look at the standings even early on because it tells me, hey, maybe there are problems with this team that needs to be fixed. I'm not worried about the standings necessarily, but I want to keep an eye on especially the teams that aren't doing as well so I can try to turn it around before I dig myself a hole. Because usually it's about Memorial Day where I start to really worry about the standings, right? That's at that point, 2 months are gone. We only have, 3 months left or 4 months left. 3 months left. Almost half the season's gone at that point, and if you've dug yourself a hole, you're in a bad position, right? That being said, Rob Silver, who won the main event overall, he told me that his team, I think in June, that team that won the main event overall was in last place in his league in June. So like, there's still plenty of time to turn things around if you're not doing well, but the sooner you can fix problems, the better. So I wouldn't ignore, where you're at in the standings doesn't mean anything today. Most people who are in first place are not going to win their league. Most people who are in last place are not going to finish in last. But don't ignore problems. If you have a problem, like Dave said, if you're last in saves, well, you better look at your team and go, do I need to make an adjustment here? If you're last in home runs, hey, what's going on here? Batting average, I'm not usually as worried about. With ERA, I'm not usually as worried about unless I'm starting a bunch of crappy starters because those ratios vary so much, especially early on in the season. But definitely want to keep an eye out. You can also move around the standings a tremendous amount. A week ago, I was in last place in our FPAS league. Yesterday, I was in first place. And today, I'm in fourth place. So, like, you can move, and that's a 15-team league. So you can move all around the standings early on. So don't think just because you're bad or you're good that is a death sentence or time to do a victory lap. Definitely take the screenshot if you are in first place, just to rub in your opponent's faces. Especially if you're
act like you've been there before, guys. Ignore
nope,
him.
Don't act like you've been there before. No, it's way more fun to act like you haven't been there before. But definitely, if you're struggling and you're continuously struggling, if you are at the bottom of your standings for a lot of days in a row, then maybe you need to do a deep dive on why and see if that is something that, hey, I'm putting myself in a bad hole because I'm continuing to run out Trent Grisham, or maybe it is time for me to cut bait on Akil Badu, or whoever the guys are that are on your team is struggling, or maybe it is like, hey, I think Cedric Mullins is going to be fine. I know some people are really worried about Randy Rosarena. I'm not that worried about Randy Rosarena. So like, kind of do a self-diagnosis there. How soon is it? How soon is too soon to give up on higher draft picks? We're going to talk about a lot of some of these higher draft picks that are really struggling. But if you have let's say third or fourth rounder that is really struggling right now, a Randy Rosarena, how soon is too soon to give up on that guy, Dave?
I mean, so many factors go into this. Depends on the league, depends on the player, depends on whether it's, bad luck. Like if you're looking at a hitter and all the metrics look good, he's just getting really unlucky, the BABIP's low or whatever. But some of these guys we're going to take a look at. You look at their strikeout rate, you look at their contact profile, and it's all bad. I don't give up on anybody that I really believed in coming into the season after the first month. I'm holding them for the first month. At least
first month's almost over, though.
It is. Yeah. I would say until like mid-May, I'm going to start taking a harder look at that point. And I'm not going to let myself get too far behind in places. So I'm not going to keep starting guys who are struggling. Like if I've got a Joey Votto or something out there, I'm going to make damn sure I pick up another first baseman, or I have another first baseman who I can play over him and just sit him on my bench until he shows me something. And if he doesn't by, mid-May or so, again, it depends on the league, right? So like in my Yahoo daily leagues where the replacement value is really high, I've dropped him in places already. And he was a guy who I really believed in coming into this year. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but you got to look at what's under the hood. You don't just look at the results and say, okay, he's been bad so far. With pitchers, look at what their Sierra is compared to their ERA and stuff like that, and see if they've made gains in the future. Like if their velo was low, are they gaining velo now? But you got to be monitoring all that stuff and make sure before you make any permanent decisions, make sure that you don't like what you're seeing and that you don't think it's going to change.
What about you, Michael? Where are you at on that?
I used to subscribe to the old model that like your last round pick, you give it a week, your second to last round pick, you give it 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. But I think that can lead to a little stubbornness, and there's a lot of that there. I think it has to be like a individual basis, and Dave kind of covered it. You have to kind of look underneath the hood to say, okay, here's what's going on, but why is this happening? And kind of see what's leading it there. And are there any signs of that turnaround? For me, I have kind of a 6-week rule. So we're kind of coming up on that. We're about 4 weeks in right now. So in a couple weeks, like Dave said, mid-May, that's when I'm really like, okay, I have some decisions to make. I'm not giving up on these guys because I really, really believed on them. Like a Ketel Marte, he's a guy I was all in on this year, but he's really struggling really, really bad. And there's a lot to be concerned with him. But right now, am I getting rid of him? No. In a couple weeks, if he's still doing this, I'm going to have to make some changes because, yeah, that's going to be nice whenever he finally comes through and he has that big week. But look at all these stats that I'm accruing. Is that really going to offset that big week, that big production he gives me? It's not going to. So mid-May is really whenever those early round guys that I'm concerned about, like 3 to 7, that's when I really start to evaluate those guys there. Everybody else, like the Joey Vottos or the Akil Badus, who I've been burnt really bad on him. Those guys, like I'm making those actionable changes now because you don't want to kind of hold on to those guys that you thought there was promise there. You thought there was breakout potential or sleeper potential versus these proven guys that you knew coming into the year that you're going to count on. So you really have to weigh all those factors whenever you're examining these guys.
So, because I used to do the same thing as you, Michael, and I think a lot of people in the industry, it was like, just reverse whatever round, like that's how many weeks you're willing to,
I have never heard of that, but I strongly disagree with that. Yeah.
Yes, it's an old adage.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Because here's the problem with that is if you drafted Cody Bellinger in the second round last year, you kept him the entire season, and that hurt you. Actively hurt you.
Why do you have to personally attack me on every single podcast episode? Like,
anyways, so what I do now is if I drafted them after round 20 in a 30 round draft, right? They are instantly cuttable. Like, and really it's probably even after round 15. So the back half of my draft is cuttable whenever, like, if I need to. Now, and then I try to keep my top 10 picks at least through Memorial Day. So 6 to 8 weeks, right? If I took them in the first 10 rounds, I believed in them, right? And, really, if I took them at all, I believed in them. But if I took them, especially in the top 10 rounds, I believed in them. I'm going to continue to ride with them. Doesn't mean I'm starting them every week. Trent Grisham's hitting my bench. If I had other options, Randy Rosarena might be hitting my bench. There are certain pitchers maybe that maybe I didn't start or in a week, but ultimately, I don't think there is necessarily a time to reevaluate. I think you should be constantly reevaluating. I think you should be looking at stats at the end of every week and going, okay, why is this guy producing the way he is? Good, bad, and indifferent, right? I think you should be looking at, hey, this guy is, hey, he had, 4 home runs this week, hit 368. Like, is this sustainable, right? Is Michael Chavez really going to like continue to hit the way he's hitting? Like, I think often we just roll with those guys. Hey, this guy's hot, I'm just going to keep rolling with him, when we should be reevaluating constantly on guys. But definitely with the guys who are struggling. And I think one of my issues in the past has been I spend so much time in the off season. I start super, super early for preparing for the next year. I put in so many hours that I'm unwilling to let these guys go when they're struggling, especially out of the gate. And that's a mistake. And I'm trying to become more aggressive about cutting guys who are actively hurting me, and at least benching guys who are actively hurting me. And I think that's the best way to play it. How are you adjusting with the dead ball? Dave mentioned it. It's hard to know what the hell's going on. It's clear that the ball is dead, though. We're having issues because barrel percentage is up, exit velocities are up, and home runs are down. So, Michael, what are you doing with the dead ball right now?
Just like in life, we're all just doing our best and doing whatever we can. And that's what I'm doing with this deadened ball. It's just I'm taking it day by day. Like, I could sit here and tell you I know exactly what's going on. I have no idea. So I'm just hoping as the weather warms up that we're gonna start seeing the ball start to fly out more. Like we saw offense was up over this weekend. Friday and Sunday specifically, we saw more runs per game than we have so far throughout the rest of the season, which is really, really good to see. But like I'm just kind of looking at that with my analysis, and a lot of it's probably confirmation bias too for some of the guys who are off to slow starts. I'm like, oh, maybe it's just the deadened ball, but I'm trying to keep that in mind, trying to be patient. Like Dave mentioned, like maybe 15 minutes ago, April is usually the lowest scoring month that we see anyway. So I'm just really hoping as the weather warms up that we kind of see the offensive production go up, even with the deadened ball. We saw the guys who struggled last year in April, and we talked about Joey Votto. He's one of those guys who really turned it around after a slow start last year. So I think we're going to look back and see some of those same changes here. But I'm just really banking on the weather warming up, and Luis Castillo, at least he got to avoid the cold weather too, right? So,
Dave, anything to add?
Not really, because I mean, I control my controllables. Everything else I can't control. I didn't even attempt to figure out what players are better suited to hit a deadened ball or anything. Everybody has a million opinions on it. Nobody knows shit. So I don't know. I basically ignored it. I don't know anything about this at all. That's really that's my take.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how actionable things are. I mean, as we get more data,
apparently Anthony Rizzo has a super exploding ball. That's all I know, because he can't stop hitting homers. So
yeah, I'm bummed
Stadium.
to get more shares of him. Yeah, that's what it is. A lot of what it is, and I think he was just undervalued. I think people kind of like
he's got like 10 homers though. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, no, I want to say his X home runs in like most parks would be like 5. Which would still be great to start the year for Anthony Rizzo, but
sure.
It's been insane. Let's talk about some guys. I don't know how many of these we'll get through, but I think I put them in order of their the worst WRC pluses in the league for qualified hitters. So let's start with Fran Mel Reyes, who has been really, really bad. Is it time to move on from Fran Mel Reyes? How worried are you, and what are you doing with him there, Michael?
It's funny you said that, because I had in my notes here, his WRC plus is 11.
Yeah,
11.
Yeah.
Like
for those who don't know, that is 100 is average.
Yes, I have Never. I mean, I'm sure there has been, but I've never seen something that low just by looking. Like, I thought that was a
I have
typo
seen
or
negative
something like that.
WRC pluses before, but
Oh
usually
my.
it's in like small sample stuff. But
Yeah.
it's unreal. It is the worst WRC plus in baseball for a qualified hitter.
11 WRC plus, 0.76 ISO, 46.3 K percentage. The whiff rate is way up. The chase percentage is way up. I mean, his power is undeniable, but like, I can't have that production on my team right now. Like, I just can't. I'd like to keep him for whenever it warms up and whenever he comes around. But Dave, you mentioned earlier the Cleveland offense is actually doing stuff. I don't buy it. I don't believe in sustainability around most of it. But like, Fran Mel just isn't joining in that party. So I'm very, very, very worried about Fran Mel Reyes, and I'm looking at other options if I can.
Where are you at, Dave? You're the Cleveland guy. I know Michael now lives in Cleveland, but you were born and bred. You bleed Cleveland red. What are you doing with Frandl?
Yeah, I've never been a Fran Mel guy. I don't like guys with his profile, but here's the thing. While I don't think he's a great player, he's much better than this. But anytime you've got a guy with his contact profile, with the high strikeout rate, the low contact rate, they go through cold streaks, and those cold streaks look very much like this. Now, this is obviously a very prolonged and very, very cold streak. I mean, the 46% K rate is alarming. And I don't think he has forever, because we're getting to the point now where we've run out of places to stick Amed Rosario. Now, granted, he's not exactly hitting so well that he's forcing us to play him. Like right now, he has a quote injury that's preventing him from playing, aka Jimenez is a better fielder than him and also hitting better than him right now. And they can't play him in the outfield, especially with guys, with Kwan playing well and everybody else, Owen Miller. So I don't know. At some point, they're going to have to figure out, are they going to keep playing him every day? He might become, he's pressing right now. Like, he does this. I've watched him play, and when things aren't going well for him, he presses. I think he just needs to calm down. I think they need to move him down the order, take some of the pressure off. But I don't, especially the fact that he's a DH. This is the exact kind of guy I avoid. That guys with that profile at DH only. He's not a 50 homer guy like people think. He just simply isn't that good of a hitter. If you're in a 12-team league, I'm moving on. In 15 teamers, you have to hold, though. There will be better days ahead, I think, but he is in quite the cold streak and needs to be on your bench.
He definitely should be on your bench. I would try to hold on to him. Franmil Reyes has a career 219 batting average in the month of April. His second worst month is the month of May. And maybe he just doesn't like cold weather. Like, maybe he just, Cleveland is not warm right now.
I guess how big of a sample is that, though? And how much of that is Cleveland compared to San Diego, for example?
I mean, it's 250 plate appearances just for the month of April. So I mean, it's not nothing.
Okay.
It's not a huge sample, but I would try to hold on to him if you can. Like, I understand, especially in shallower formats when you're seeing other guys on the wire, especially because he's not like a 5-category producer, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So I can understand
if there's a good replacement out there, I would replace him, but I'm not.
I think that's fair.
For some, Gavin Sheets or something. Like, I'm not replacing him with some,
I think it's harder in a deeper league, in a 15-team league. Like, I just don't know that.
No, you should not drop him in 15s for sure.
In 10s, I totally understand it.
Yeah.
You probably end up getting him back later on, anyways. If he does start to heat up, I think in 12s you can probably make the move, depending on who you're picking up.
In shallow 12s, yeah.
I would try to hold on to him if you have deeper benches, if you can, just because I do think he's going to turn it around. I think he will end up hitting 5+ home runs, and kind of being the guy. I think he'll end up being the guy he usually is. I think he's a slow starter, whether that's because he just, takes a little bit of time to get going or doesn't like cold weather. But I do understand moving on from him. What about a guy who is notoriously streaky, in Jonathan Schoop, who started off really, really slow. Where are you at on him there, Dave?
I mean, I don't own him anywhere. I haven't, I'm just looking at his profile now. Like, he's not striking out a ton. It looks like it's probably more or less just bad luck. Like, his BABIP is really low. Nothing stands out to me in his profile he's not barreling any balls right now, but his contact is good. I think he'll probably be okay, but he's just like, he's not he's a 250 hitter who can hit you 15 to 20 homers pretty much. Well, probably closer to 20. If you're in a shallower league, you can certainly move on from him. He shouldn't be a guy that you feel like you have to keep, but in 15s, I'm probably still holding him. It's probably just his cold streak that he'll get past.
What about you, Michael? What do you know with Jonathan Schoop?
Yeah, like this is what we signed up for kind of with Schoop. Like we just expect the inconsistency, the roller coaster. You draft him, you cut him, you pick him up, and then he just constantly on that carousel. I agree with Dave. A lot of it is bad luck, BABIP luck right now. So yeah, I think better days are ahead, but you just don't know when they're going to be there, and you don't know when to start them. So I mean, if you're in on Schoop, like you knew this is kind of what you're looking at heading into the season. So it really doesn't surprise me. And yeah, I think he's due for a Scopian hot streak here soon.
A scopening. There is always a scopening. And what a scopening is a 2 to 4 week stretch in which he is the best hitter in baseball. It happens out of nowhere, and then he goes back to being garbage, and then it happens out of nowhere, and then goes back to being garbage. It probably will happen. Here is the one caveat. Jonathan Schoop has never been a high exit velocity or high barrel percentage guy. And with a deadened ball, I wonder if the scopening won't be as nice as it has been in the past. With the ball not traveling as far, even when it is barreled, we're seeing, go follow the barrel tracker on Twitter and see how many of those barrels are flyouts now or lineouts. It's a lot. And
to be fair, he's not hitting any barrels though.
yeah. But when he does, will he fall victim to what's been happening with the baseball for a lot of guys?
Yeah.
And so when he's a guy that doesn't have prodigious power to begin with, and is streaky, are those hot streaks going to be not as hot? Because he suffers more. I think he's one of, and I've been a Jonathan Schoop guy for a really long time. Like as a prospect, I was a fan of Jonathan Schoop. But I think I would drop him in just about every format right now. I think 15 teams, you can make the argument because he's first and second base eligible. Maybe you want to put him on your reserve list. I don't have a problem moving on because I do worry.
Depends on the options.
Yeah. But I picked up Abraham Toro in my main event or one of my main events this week. I think I'd rather have Toro than Jonathan Schoop right now. So,
I just don't know what Toro's playing time is going to be
with all the injuries. I think he'll be fine.
Okay.
He's been playing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially now, with the injuries, they can move Adam Frazier out to the outfield and play him at second. So
true.
What about Whit Merrifield? Whit Merrifield was like a second or third round pick in a lot of leagues. And your buddy Jake Hallisker, big fan.
Yeah. Him and baseball pods also. Baseball pods, they both love him.
I didn't end up with him this year on any teams that I can think of, but it wasn't because I was avoiding him. Just didn't work out for me. I was targeting other things usually at the spot that he goes. What are you doing there with Whit Merrifield, Dave?
Yeah, I was kind of, I don't want to say he was an avoid, but he was a guy I definitely didn't want to be in a position to draft. And I didn't draft him anywhere this year. I just, it took him 720 at bats or plate appearances rather last year to get 10 homers. And he's no longer a 300 hitter anymore. He can still provide game-changing speed, which is why you have to hold on to him. But I don't know that his profile ages particularly well. And he is 33 now, but you have to hold him. Let me be clear about that. Like unless you're in like a really shallow 10-team league, you really still have to hold him. And even there, you might still, if it's a roto league, because the steals are a game changer. But yeah, you're holding him, but I don't know. I think this will probably be his worst year to date for sure.
Where are you at on Merrifield there, Michael?
Under the hood, everything kind of looks the same, and he kind of looks like Whit Merrifield. He has the elite K rate, the XBA is 260, which is good from his like 190 average or whatever it is. He's struggling against fastballs this year more than he has in years past, which has me a little concerned, especially with Dave mentioning he is an older player and that skill set kind of is going to decline a little bit. I believe it's his chase rate maybe has taken a slight hit.
His swinging strike rate is up too, for what it's worth.
Yeah. I was going to say the whiff percentage up to 22.9, not quite in whiff Merrifield territory there, but I'm buying if somebody's panicking on him just for the steals alone, especially with his oft injured and disappointing teammate out for the year, Alberto Mondeci. Like, if you need some steals help, go try to buy low. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but Whit Merrifield has all the makings for a buy low player, I think, right now. So I'd be looking to get him, and if I had him, I'm holding. I'm not really concerned about him right now. The only thing I worry about is just him kind of fading away just because of his age and his kind of late career breakout.
That's a good point. If you're in a league that you need steals in, I think that the steals are going to come. The Royals love to run. He's not nearly this bad, 183 BABIP and everything. Like, I don't think it's going to be a banner year for him, but I think he can. If you can get him from someone for relatively cheap, I would do it.
His BABIP's down to 173 after today's 0 for 4.
Oh boy.
I agree. I think he's kind of a buy low candidate, depending on how low you can buy him.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, like, I don't want to give up like a fourth round, talent for Whit Merrifield right now. But if someone's really if someone's selling for 25 or even 50 cents on the dollar, I'll take that gamble. Like, yes, the zone contact numbers are down, but like they're down to like where league average is. Like that's like he's been a 90% zone contact guy in the past, and yes, the swing strike rate is up, but it's still like lower than most players. I think he's gonna be fine. I think he's getting a bit unlucky here, and maybe he's not the player he was. Maybe people shouldn't have been taking him in the second and third rounds, but I still think he's probably a fourth or fifth round player. I think he's gonna be fine, especially the speed component. A team that likes to run. Middle, infield, and outfield eligible. Love that. So yeah, I'm buying low on Merrifield. I'm definitely worried. Anybody who's performing this badly or this far into the season, we're not a week in the season, we're 3 weeks in the season. Some concern, but I think he's going to turn it around. I'm not as worried as other guys on this list. Guys like Bobby Dolbeck. I'm old enough to remember when people told me there were changes, when he was a different player from August on, when, he learned from Kyle Schwarber. And, don't worry that he faced so many lefties towards the end of last season, and that's where he did a lot of his damage. There were changes for Bobby Dalbec. You shouldn't take April victory laps, but it is May, my friends, and Bobby Dolbeck sucks. And I fucking told you he was gonna suck. Where are you at on Bobby Dolbeck there, Michael?
I don't get the appeal. He's another spring training hero who has a good spring training. Like, here we go again. It's like, yeah, Lewis Brinson's watching from the bleachers right now. Like, we saw what happened with him. Like, I don't get it. He's not a good player. And if you need any more evidence of it, he is in a platoon with Franchy freaking Cordero right now. Like, they are playing Franchy Cordero at first base to platoon with Bobby Dalbec. He is not a good player. Tristan Casas or Tristan C is going to be coming up soon, and it cannot come up soon enough because Bobby Dalbec is a terrible player. He is not a good baseball player. I would draft Alberto Mondeci right now over Bobby Dalbec for the rest of season production. He is a bad player.
Wow.
Dave, where are you at on Bobby Dalbec?
Man, well, to start with, he was not a guy I was particularly interested in because I simply don't like those profile hitters. I don't like guys I don't like sub 70% contact hitters. He was sub 65% contact like every year. So having said that, I do think that a lot of this is still bad luck. I mean, you look at the BABIP is 200. The zone contact is actually up 5%. The K rate is down. Now, granted, it's down to like 30.7%, which is still too high, but it's down from like 4% from last year. I think that this is, unfortunately for him, an ill-timed cold streak that I think he could turn around to some degree, but the problem is he already kind of had a short leash coming into the season. So this was kind of my problem with drafting him, and why I when we were discussing him in our group, my friends Tony and Marcus were really in on him, and me and Jake were more out on him. And I said, look, the only way I'm drafting him is not as my first baseman, not as my corner infielder, as a utility player. And if he works out, cool. If not, I can drop him. And I think he's better than this, but it's really hard to keep him. And you definitely, you cannot be starting him anywhere. I would rather drop him than start him for sure. I was very, very close to dropping him in all my leagues this past week. I only dropped him in about half. So I had like 2 shares. So I dropped him in 1 out of 2 leagues. So the other league, I think both of them are shared teams with Tony. So I think I'll be dropping the other share next week if he doesn't turn it around. But it's hard to turn around when you're only platooning.
In the words of the late, great Dennis Green, he is who we thought he was, and we let him off the hook. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, guys, and I'm not sorry. I warned you guys. Like, this is like I don't want to be this guy, but I'm gonna be this guy. I got so much pushback on Bobby Dalbeck is not a good baseball player, or not a good hitter, like from really smart guys in the industry, absolutely brilliant guys in the industry, friends of mine in the industry. Todd Zoll is a friend of mine. MLB Moving Average. John Legeza is a friend of mine. Matt Williams, friend of mine. Like, I'm sorry, this is who he is. Like, he is going to have massive cold streaks, massive hot streaks.
Was Matt really liked Dalbec too? I know he loved Badu, and I hated Badu so much. I'm like,
yeah,
no.
and I was wrong on Badu. Like,
okay.
You know, but I just didn't think they would just bench him so effing, quickly and much. I mean, I thought maybe platoon, but I didn't think he'd be benching his righties. But back to Dalbeck, like you said, his zone contact is actually up. It's still way below league average.
Yeah,
his zone. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, hey, look, that's better. It still sucks, but it's better. Yeah. He's swinging outside the zone 38% of the time, and that it would be a problem, even if he swung less. He like swings like all the time. Like, all he does is get up there and swing, and he just swings and misses so damn much. Yes, when he is seeing the ball really well, when he's going up against lefties especially, he can be, a massive power source. I'll play him in DFS. Play him in DFS versus lefties because he'll be effing cheap as hell. But he should not be on any rosters in redraft leagues, or any format. Dynasty, get rid of him too, because Tristan Casas is hitting like 262 with 5 home runs and walking like 20% of the time in AAA. He's going to be up really, really soon, because they cannot continue to do this if they want to compete in this division. So, someone's saying blame Spore for the Tigers hype. I do blame Spore. I blame him for so much. Well, I'll be talking to him tomorrow, so you'll get to hear me yell at him. Marcus Semien, who was a guy who is really polarizing in the fantasy community. A lot of people who are like, "Oh, Marcus Semien is going to regress. Marcus Semien is going to regress." Some people are like, "Hey, Marcus Semien can be fine." I felt like the hate had gone a little bit too far on Marcus Semien. Maybe not far enough, because he is really, really struggling right now. Dave, where are you at on Marcus Semien?
He's a guy who I avoided this year. If he fell several rounds past where he was going, I was interested, but just wasn't a guy I really believed in the skills of, but not this bad, I didn't think. But it's still so difficult to tell after just a month, but 186 BABIP. The K rate looks okay. The swing strike rate is up though. The thing that concerns me is he was never a guy who really hit the ball hard a lot, despite all the home runs last year. The 41% hard hit rate last year was his career high by far. Most of the years he was in like the 30s or even high 20s, and this year he's at 23%. So I just don't know how good of a hitter he really is. He's not a high max EV guy either. And he went, going from Toronto's park to Texas's, which is much more pitcher friendly, was a big concern for me. So I definitely think you're at best getting, a far less guy than you probably drafted. I don't think he's going to in for a good year at all. I at the same time, I can't drop him yet. I'm in any league, so I'm still holding and hoping that he does something. But I would be expecting something in the vicinity of 20 to 25 homers with maybe 10 to 12 steals instead of, if you were hoping for 35 to 45 homers. That ain't happening.
Where are you at on Semien there, Michael?
I have actual concerns, but Oakland's a bad place to hit. Wait, no, this isn't 2020, but it really looks like it for Marcus Semien, because his numbers really look closer to 2020 than we saw with the Blue Jays last year. We knew he was going to regress. We had concerns with him. Like Justin, I thought it went a little too far, but you look, Dave, you mentioned 22.9 hard hit percentage. His exit velocity is way down. No homers, barrel percentage cut in half. His OBP is 224 and his average is 149. The thing is, his XBA isn't that much better. So it's not, you can't really just scream bad luck with Semien so far. I have legitimate concerns with him. And like Dave, I don't want to cut him yet. But I'm going to give it maybe 3 more weeks. And if we still keep seeing this, I'm not going to cut him, but I'm going to take that actionable move to put him on my bench and get somebody else in there to start over him right now, because I have legitimate concerns with him coming off of that big season with Toronto last year, and it's not looking too great right now.
There's definitely some concerning things, right? I think he's going to end up being fine.
What does fine mean?
And here's the caveat to that, right? Because I think he's going to end up being a guy who hits 20 plus home runs and steals 10 plus bases.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So I think he's going to be fine.
With what average though?
I think his average is probably going to be the 250 to 260 ish, that we kind of expect from him.
I think it might be lower. I think he might be more in the 240 average area.
I think the dead ball really hurts him. And I think if he had the same ball as last year, maybe he would challenge for 30 plus homers again. But I just don't. I think he's one of those guys that doesn't have extreme exit velocities. The launch angle's the same. The max exit velocity is the same. The contact percentage is a little bit down, but he's really swinging. He's really trying to swing his way out of this. You see the swing percentage is up.
Yeah. It's up 60%,
yeah. So I think he's going to end up being fine, but I just don't think we're going to. I think the power regression that we expected is going to be amplified by the fact that there's a dead ball, and he's not a guy that's a pure power hitter. And so I think at the end of the day, you don't want to drop him because I think he's going to be fine. But I think if you were expecting anywhere close to what we saw last year, I think you're going to be really disappointed. And so he was one of those guys whose ADP fluctuated wildly throughout draft season. I saw him go in the second round. I saw him go in the 7th round. So those of you drafted in 5th, 6th, 7th round, I think at the end of the day, you're going to go, all right, yeah, maybe I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but it's fine. Those of you drafted in 2nd or 3rd round, damn, he was a bust. I don't think he's going to be the reason you lost your league, but he's definitely not going to be the reason you won it.
If you were redrafting today, Justin, would you take Semien or Whit Merrifield? Would you take
Whit Merrifield
for the steals?
Because the stolen bases. Yeah. And I think Semien could steal more bases because Texas likes to run. Steal more bases than he has previously. But even with the fact that he's got a 149 batting average and a 224 on base percentage, he already has 2 stolen bases. Mm-hmm. So that those numbers are going to come up, and he'll be on base more to steal more. But at the end of the day, like if he goes 15-15, you'll be fine with it, but that's not what you drafted him for. So, all right, moving right along, we get to, the reason why I passed on the aforementioned Franmil Reyes in a lot of leagues is because I was like, I can get Nelson Cruz, baby. Nelson Cruz going so late. Nelson Cruz is so cheap this year. Everybody's overlooking Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz has sucked. He's been on a lot of my fucking teams. Sucking. How much should I be worrying right now about a 75-year-old Nelson Cruz there, Michael?
I mean, Father Time's undefeated. That's what we always hear, right? Except against David Ortiz. Like everybody else, like they eventually fall victim to him. And I don't know if it's because, even during the lockout, there was the misinterpreted rumor that Nelson Cruz was going to retire, even though that wasn't true. But like he got a very, very late start, even later than everybody else. He didn't have a team. So maybe it's just trying to catch up there, but like he can't even catch up to Sliders right now. But he is still hitting the ball hard, good walk rate, good K rate. But yeah, I'm concerned. We started to see a little bit. I hate to use the word decline because it wasn't a true decline, but we started seeing a little dip last year with Nelson Cruz. And, he is 75 years old, like you said. So it could just be the end for him. I'm more concerned about him than I am kind of some of the other people on this list, just because I worry about older players. I worry about the just kind of falling off that cliff, and it's really, really hard to get back from it. So, to steal it from my buddy Frank Stamfel there, the worryometer, he's pretty high on this one.
Where are you at there, Dave? I know you fade Nelson Cruz.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I normally do, and I think I ended up with one share. I normally fade anybody in this age range in general because of that cliff, but he had kind of been eluding that for a while. But we kind of saw it, like Michael said, last year, but I also kind of attributed part of that to being in Tampa because so many hitters struggle with the batter's eye in Tampa that I thought maybe going to, and Washington is actually for right-handed hitters a pretty decent park. His expected batting average is like 100 points higher than his current average. His BABIP is 157. He's walking more. He's striking out less. His contact rate is higher. He's just not hitting the ball with as much authority as he used to. His barrel percentage is much lower. His hard hit percentage is down 10%. His hard percentage is way down from 41%, was it 38%? To 26%. So down another 12% there. His max EV isn't there yet, but I don't know. I still feel like he can turn it around this year. He's not someone I'm looking to drop just yet. He does have 2 home runs. And I do remember he got a late start to the year, so I think he could be kind of still basically an extended spring training mode. So I'm probably going to give him a little bit longer to figure it out than I would other guys who are struggling at this point.
Death, taxes, and Nelson Cruz being good. These things are inevitable. I think it's going to be fine. I mean, you mentioned a lot of the stats that seem like right in line. There's one issue, and he's hitting the ball into the ground. His launch angle's down. Yeah. This is why his barrel percentage is down, because he's not getting high enough to qualify for a barrel. I think he's a small tweak away. He's dealt with some nagging injuries. It's a new team, new field. He's in the National League. He's seeing new pitchers. He's a professional hitter. I think he's gonna figure it out, be fine. He starts seeing these pitchers second, third time. He's gonna start hitting them a little bit more. I'm not super worried about Nelson Cruz. Maybe Father Time has caught up with him. Maybe Michael's right, and it is a matter of time. But I'm not ready to believe it. Maybe, and this could be confirmation bias, right? I have Nelson Cruz on 9 teams this year. 9 of them. 10 teams. I have him on a dynasty league as well. Actually 11 team. I have him 2 dynasty teams.
Yes, young stud prospect Nelson Cruz.
Yes. Maybe this is confirmation bias. I'm not ready to give up on Nelson Cruz. He's been good pretty much every season of his career. Like, he's been around forever. If this is the year the ship goes down, all the people that will take victory laps can shut the fuck up, because they've been trying to take that victory lap for like the last 6 fucking years, and it hasn't worked. So
that's how I feel about people like talking about Buxton. It's like they want to take victory laps on him in fucking April because he hit a bunch of home runs. It's like, okay,
people with Chris Sale injury stuff.
You've been wrong for like 6 years, dude.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break.
No,
okay?
you don't get to take the lap now.
And then he got hurt right after that, and I was like, and there it is.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, granted, he's back now, but even if he manages to stay relatively healthy, you can't ignore the 6 years before that he wasn't. It's like, okay.
No, because this is like a roulette wheel. You lost a lot more money before you finally won some.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. Moving right along. I'm probably going to knock a number of these off the list, including some guys we've already mentioned. But I do want to talk about Joey Votto, because Votto is a really interesting case. The guy who's known as kind of just a steady Eddie. He's had down years before, but he changed his approach, and it worked really, really well. Dave, you mentioned that you dropped him in a number of leagues already.
Yeah,
because he's struggling.
He's one of
Where
my
are you
most
at
owned
on
players.
Joey Votto?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's one of my most owned players. And granted, he's 38, but the thing about old aging hitters is it's difficult for them. They don't have the same bat speed, but the power doesn't necessarily go away. I mean, we saw it with Nelson Cruz, right? Like 40 years old, still hitting 35 bombs. I don't think that their 36 homers, especially in Great American Small Park, were an aberration for Votto. And it looked like what he did last year looked very, very repeatable. What I think is happening right now, because everything looks bad, right? He's trying to hit more home runs now. He changed his bat. He's a tinkerer, right? Like, he always thinks he can do better. He wanted to lead the league and lead baseball and barrels and everything. So he's doing all this different shit, and I'm hoping he comes to the conclusion that it's just not working for him, and he needs to go back to what he was doing last year. But he's the exact type of guy who can, on a dime, just flip that switch, and he can be really, really good again. Everything he did last year, he can do again. He just needs to change the approach. But right now, he's hitting a shit ton of ground balls. He's pressing. He's striking out at a 32% clip. And recently, from the 24th to the 28th of April, he had like 1 strikeout and like 8 walks or something like that. Like, it looked like he had turned it around. And then he went to Coors, and I was excited. And I was like, okay, this is where he's going to break out. And then he went 1 for 13 with 6 strikeouts and no walks. So I think what's happening is he's really pressing because they have no protection in that lineup. Everybody's gone. Castellanos is gone. India's been injured half the year. There's just nobody there. Why are pitchers going to pitch to Joey Votto? That's the question. So, you got Kyle Farmer hitting in front of him. It's like, son of a bitch. That's going to be a problem for him all year, but I do have faith that he's going to turn it around. He's the guy that I will wait extra time for, because I do believe in the skills there, even though StatCast will tell you that he's a piece of shit. So, it all looks bad. The hard hit percentage, barrel rate, all down, but I just have faith in his ability. This is the guy who studies the game more than pretty much anybody else. And if anybody's going to turn their season around, it's him.
Where are you at on Votto there, Michael?
It's blind trust. That's where we're at with Votto. It's just like we've seen him tinker. Dave mentioned the going back to his old bat, and since he did that, he went 1 for 18 with 6 strikeouts and 83 mile per hour exit velocity with it. Like, he's just the guy that, like, if his name wasn't Joey Votto, if he was anybody else, it'd be like, okay, like, whatever. But he's notorious for this. He's a tinkerer. And because of that, I'm going to keep him around a little longer. I'd like to keep him on my bench and wait for that adjustment to happen. But yeah, he just kind of has the blind faith. And who's really going to jump ahead of him? Nobody. The Reds are terrible. He's an icon there. They're just going to play him the rest of the year. They're going to let him try to figure this out. And it's very good timing. Fangraphs, actually, they released a piece on him today. And I definitely recommend everybody go read it. It's a very, very, very good read titled "Is This the End for Joey Votto?" And I hope that answers no. I want to believe that answers no. But right now, it's just based on past experience and blind faith, and just if anybody can turn this around, it's Joey Votto.
Yeah, man, this is a hard one because I think it is blind faith right now. I really do. He does look a little bit lost. He looks really frustrated. He's swinging more. Swing percentage is up to 47%.
He's pressing.
Yeah, which isn't a lot for other people. Like Bobby Dalbeck, does that in his sleep. But that's high for him. He's not being as patient at the plate. He's hitting the ball into the ground when he is making contact. I do tend to give him a lot of leeway, and I can understand. I think because he's a first baseman and there's so many good first basemen available in shallower formats, I can understand moving on if you're playing in a 10 or 12 team league. Go get Rowdy Tellez, go get Daniel Vogelbach, go get these guys who are playing.
Those are platoon guys, though. That's tough. I mean, if it's weekly changes, you have to be facing 5+ righties to be worth it.
Would you rather seven games of crap from Joey Votto right now, or 5 games of good stuff from Rowdy Tellez?
I mean, that's a right now attitude, though. In a month from now, that might be the worst decision you could.
Yeah, but in a 10 or 12 team league, you should be
in a 10 or 12 league, you're not picking up. Vogelbach, you're hopefully picking up Trey Mancini.
I'm just throwing random names off the top of my head, but
okay.
I still I'd rather have a Rowdy Tellez than Votto right now in a 10 or 12 team league. I think there are just better. There are going to be better options in shallower formats right now, because I don't think Votto's a league winner. Especially in shallower formats. So I think in a 15 team, you probably hold on to him. And just kind of hope for the best. But I can also understand moving on if you have to play him right now, that's really hard.
No, you can't. You got to bench him right now.
But what if you don't have that option? If you're dealing with injuries on your team, you may not have the option to.
And you have to make decisions. And you have to
it's
an injured player or
drop Eloy or start Joey Votto.
Drop Eloy for me.
Yeah, I probably go that way too, but I can understand people not.
Yeah.
All right. Dylan Carlson, who's, one of those guys that there are some people in the industry who love Dylan Carlson's really struggled this year. They've even tried batting him all over the lineup from pretty much top to bottom to try to get him going. It hasn't worked yet. Where are you at on Dylan Carlson there, Michael?
It's confirmation bias for me. I've never been a Carlson fan. He's always been Stephen Piscotty light to me. I don't really get the appeal with him. That's a fine player. Stephen Piscotty can be used in 5 outfielder leagues, but I think the fantasy profile was always a little overstated, and I have never had him one time, and I don't think I'll ever have him, even if he does turn it around. I just don't really believe in him. So far 0 barrels, 17.9 hard hit percentage. The improved K rate is fine, but it's not great. And yeah, he's just not a great player, and not somebody I wouldn't he's fine to cut in 15 teamers, 12 teamers, 10 teamers. I'm just not a Carlson guy.
Dave, are you a Carlson guy?
Nope. I never had any interest in him either. I think really it just all comes back to his 2019 AA season where he had 21 homers and 18 steals, and people are just hoping he gets back to that, but he hasn't run at all since 2019. So what are we doing? I don't know. He doesn't have a lot of power. He doesn't hit for a great average. He doesn't have any speed. What were we expecting? I don't know. It's just, he's a guy I think I'm perfectly fine moving on from in pretty much all leagues. I just don't believe in the skills.
He's a guy, I think, again, that, I'm going to keep bringing this up with the deadened ball that gets hurt by the deadened ball. He has enough power, but it's fence scraping power. And so that fence scraping power, his BABIP is low, but you know what else is low is his X batting average. So he's earned a lot of that really, really shitty batting average. His XBA is 186. So completely backs up his batting average of 175. I think there's a legitimate shot he goes back down to the minor leagues here pretty soon. So, the Cardinals are a team that want to win. You've got they've got other guys who can play. Like he could easily go down. So
Nolan Gorman. I mean,
Gorman can't play outfield, but
that's totally fine. But Tommy Edman can.
Yeah.
And then Gorman can play second base.
And, and they also have another struggling guy to get on that segue. That's why Michael's best in business right here, right? Kolten Wong struggling a ton. Nolan Gorman's in the minor leagues. How worried are we about
is not
Kolten
on that
Wong?
team, buddy. He's not on that team.
Oh, why was I thinking Kolten? Because he
used to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
He isn't on that team, but Tyler O'Neill is.
I know. I thought you were going to go with Tyler O'Neill. He's not getting sent down, but
yeah, Tyler O'Neill's not getting sent down. Let's go to Kolten Wong. There you go. Being sick, you get a little brain fart right there. Kolten Wong struggling mightily right now. Any worries about Kolten Wong there, Michael?
Not really. He's heating up a little bit. He had a 4-game stretch recently where he went 6 for 18 with 2 steals, which is nice to see. And, I was doing a little research on him earlier. And if you want this really hard-hitting analysis right here that you can only find here, he has kind of a odd even year where it fluctuates from his production, and we're in an even year right now, so it might be a bad year for Kolten Wong. If you look at his Fangraphs page, it's just good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. So
modern day Alex Rios.
Yes, so that is what I'm giving you right now with all of the analytics driving it. It's definitely an even year, so I think maybe Mercury's in retrograde or something like that for Kolten Wong, but no. I have some faith in him. I'm a Kolten Wong guy, so I like seeing that recent, it is very small, but 6 of 18, 2 steals, I'll take it.
Dave, where you at in Kolten Wong?
I mean, how you expect me to follow up analysis like that? I can't do it. I'm just going to have to defer. No, I mean, this is not a guy who needs to hit a ton of homers to have value. I think the dead ball is probably affecting him too, because he's not a guy who has a lot of power to begin with, but maybe his 35% hard hit rate last year was a little bit of an outlier. He's generally more been in the 25, 27 range, and that's where he is again. His contact rates look good. His BABIP's a little low, so I expect him to improve there. He's striking out a little bit too much, but I think he'll probably be a little bit less than what you expected, but I think he'll be more or less, the guy that you were thinking he was. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a double-digit homer guy. So I think with his deadened ball, I think he's another one of these guys who gets hurt. Maybe more of like a 7-homer, 8-homer guy. But I think he'll still steal, 10 to 15 bases. I think his batting average is going to be fine. I think he's going to be okay. So maybe not what you necessarily wanted when you drafted him, but I think if you drafted him, you're probably in a 15-team league. You're probably holding on to him. So. Another guy you may have drafted if you were in a 15-team league, you might not have drafted if you were a 10 or a 12, is Adam Duvall, who's really, really struggling. Ronald Acuna is back. How long do they keep letting Adam Duvall go out there, Dave?
I don't even hadn't even really looked at Adam Duvall at all yet because I own him nowhere. Again, power profile only kind of guy. He's the kind of guy who you wouldn't expect the deadened ball to affect as much. He's got a lot of power. He just struggles to make a lot of contact. It looks, I don't know. His BABIP is 275 though. That's not good because that's not the cause of his struggles. He's striking out a little bit more. But I don't know. I think there's still a spot for him even with Acuna back, but they're playing Travis Demeritte a lot. I think if they play, is Acuna going to play center field is the question, because I know that they want to keep him healthy, but he's been playing a lot of DH in right field right now, and they don't really have anybody other than Duvall who can really play center field, right?
I don't know that they do.
Yeah.
They traded Pache.
Right. When I'm looking at roster resource right now, I don't see anybody else here who really
Heredia could, but
you're not going to play that guy every day though. He's not great in the center either.
I think Duvall's job is probably safe until Acuna's ready to play center again. Yeah, which I think they said they wanted to wait till June before letting him play center.
Yeah.
So, and that probably lines up with when Eddie Rosario comes back from his eye surgery.
Yeah.
So I think Duvall's on hot nose, but I think there's a legit shot Duvall gets DFA'd if he doesn't turn it around.
It's possible. Yeah.
He's like not a good overall baseball player.
No, he's not. He's not the kind of guy I like to draft. But I do think that some of this is just, I mean, like you look at his home runs per fly ball, he's typically around 21%. He's at 3.6%. So again, that could be the dead ball, but I do expect that some of that bad luck turns around because I don't see anything like drastically different in his profile this year compared to other years. His contact rate's down a bit, but other than that, I mean, he's just not. That's just the profile. That's what they do.
THP is in the chat is saying Waters, as in Drew Waters. Drew Waters is crushing it right now, hitting 364, 417, 727. However, he's doing it at high A.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's at high A.
That's a good question.
Maybe an injury. Maybe
well, you said he's crushing it. It's been 12 at bats. Like, okay,
yeah,
let's calm down.
He's also at high A. Like he has no AAA at bats. I don't know why. I'm guessing he's coming off.
I think he was hurt, and that like this is just the start of his rehab.
Yeah, he's begun a rehab assignment. Drew Waters has really struggled in recent years in the minors, including striking out 31% of the time at AAA last year. So I think he's got some stuff to do before they're willing to bring him up for the majors. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on Duvall? Are you getting ready to drop him?
Yeah, I think he's fine to drop. And yeah, Drew Waters is not a good baseball player. I feel like I've said that a lot this podcast, and I apologize, but he just has a gigantic hole in his swing. He's just not a big league player. And speaking of hole in the swing, Duvall, his whiff rate is up this year. I had somebody ask me on Twitter about him. Like Dave, I hadn't looked into him at all because I don't have him anywhere at all. He has the pure power that can play anywhere, which we know, but the one thing that I noticed about him when somebody asked me is that he is really, really, really struggling against sliders this year. And as I look, he has a 50% whiff rate against sliders on the year. So if he isn't able to kind of course correct there, it's going to be a long, long season for him. And yeah, I think fantasy managers are going to be the first people to kind of cut ties. And to Justin's point, the Braves may follow suit.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Let's finish out with Tyler O'Neill, the aforementioned Tyler O'Neill. Dave says he's not getting sent down. I agree with that. He's not being sent down at all. But he has struggled this year. Where are you at on Tyler O'Neill there, Michael?
I didn't buy into Tyler O'Neill. I don't like – I like the larger samples, and, I don't know why. Like, we saw the change last year, and it looked like – that there was something behind it. It didn't look fluky, but we had a large enough sample with Tyler O'Neill in his career to see that, that kind of outweighed the 2021 season. So I had a little concerns. The only place I have him is TGFBI because I just wanted to go big and get one share, but he's struggling against non-fastballs so far. And like I said, wasn't sold that he was a new player. I needed to see it again this year and see him take that Teoscar Hernandez step where he cuts down that K rate year after year to kind of evolve into that new reliable player. But he has a below average exit velocity on the season, and the K rate's still respectable at 25%. I think you'll take that from Tyler O'Neill, but he needs to be able to adjust against breaking pitches. I think that's a really, really big thing for him to take the next step. I'm not close to cutting him. Like in 12 teamers, I'm keeping him. 10 teamers, I'm keeping him because we've seen the potential. It's sky high. And, he's somebody you have to be a little patient with. But if you came in with the rose-colored glasses this year thinking that what you saw in 2021 was going to be the floor for Tyler O'Neill, then you were kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of disappointment, not kind of taking into equation the actual floor and the actual downside for him.
Dave?
Yeah, he's another guy with the profile that scares me, the sub 70% contact rate. This year, he's actually gotten his contact percentage up to 70. But get this. This is what's really weird. Never mind. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Well, his zone contact rate is up to 79% too. He's not hitting the ball as hard as he was last year. But again, last year kind of looked like an outlier. Like his hard hit rate was 52% compared to previously it was 45, 36, 39. I just felt like people were paying for his absolute ceiling last year was I didn't think it was going to get any better than that. And I just think he's on a little bit of, I think he's on a cold streak right now. I think he's going to be more or less okay. But I don't think he's as good as people thought he was. But again, I just think that guys with this profile go through this. Like the first thing I look at with power hitters, home run per fly ball rate. If that is absurdly low, then they're probably just on a cold streak. You know, it could be the ball too. But you know, he's a career 21.4% home run per fly ball rate, and he's at 4.8% right now. So it's going to improve. He's got a 222 BABIP. He's a career 328 BABIP. It's going to improve. I know that his XBA still sucks. I'm not expecting him to hit 286 again. I always thought he was probably a 240, 250 hitter. So I think that's probably what you're going to get with 25 homers, maybe even 30 with, you know, he's already got 3 steals. As much as he's struggling, he's still running. He's got 3 steals and a caught stealing. So that's encouraging at least. So I think you're still going to get something from him. I just think he was being taken too high in drafts.
I tend to agree. Didn't end up with him anywhere just because there were other guys I had ranked above him that went behind him. That being said, like, I think part of the problem is I think he is second guessing things right now. He needs to kind of get back to being Tyler O'Neill, which is being more aggressive. Swing percentage is down right now. He will find his way out of this. Thing is, last year was the ceiling. If anybody thought last year was the floor, they were completely wrong. Last year was the ceiling. He is a 240-ish hitter. He's going to hit somewhere between like 235, 245 because he swings and misses so much. But there is a ton of power. I'm not worried about that. He's not a guy who's going to be hurt by a dead ball. I mean, his biceps are amazing. So, like, don't worry about that. He's going to be fine in terms of power. He's going to steal bases. And the nice thing about Tyler O'Neill that you can't say about every guy on this list is he is fantastic defensively. And so even when he struggles like he is now, he's going to continue to play because he is so good defensively. So I would not be worried about Tyler O'Neill. He's not a guy I'm dropping in any format. You know, I don't even know that I would bench him in most formats. I think you just roll him out there.
The speed, so yeah.
He's at the end of the day, he's one of those guys you're gonna look at the end of the year line and go, all right, that's fine, that's good. You know, maybe you shouldn't have drafted him as high as you did, but he's not going to be the reason you lost a league. Yeah.
So one more thing. Can we do one more player?
Yes.
I want to hear what you guys have to think about Amed Rosario. Justin, let's start with you. See,
I think
because he wants to hear what we say, and then he likes
no. I think the problem with Amed Rosario is, and it's a weird thing to say, Cleveland's kind of weirdly crowded right now.
I know.
Not with talent necessarily, but with players that they're going to play. I think he's going to be fine. But I don't know how. I think in shallower formats you can move on because there's going to be a guy somewhat, in 10 and 12 team leagues. Like there's Amed Rosario types out on the wire right now. And he is struggling and going to run into playing time issues if he continues to struggle. I think in 15 team leagues, it's really hard to find what you drafted him for on the waiver wire, which is speed. And I think he can run once he starts to just get better. But yeah, he's a tough one. I don't have him in many spots, so like I don't really have this issue.
I drafted a lot of Amed Rosario, so I'm in it's a tough spot right now.
I wasn't avoiding him.
Yeah.
I was a big Amed Rosario guy last year. I was also a big Andres Jimenez guy last year. This has been really weird. I really didn't think, we were all worried about Andres Jimenez's playing time, especially early on. And now it looks like Rosario might be the odd guy out.
He was the kind of guy who he looked like he would have a good average, and he was 13 for 13 stealing bases last year. I saw no reason why they wouldn't give him the green light to just run wild this year with our team being what it is.
His XBA is 267.
Yeah,
he should be better. Like he's
right.
He's getting some bad BABIP luck here.
Right.
And he's not striking out a ton.
I do think that maybe his 43% hard hit rate last year and 111 max EV were a little bit of outliers. Like I don't think he has much power. I was drafting him more for average and speed, and then just not being a zero in power, like hoping for 10 homers is fine, something like that. But I was really hoping that he would run wild, but he's such a bad defender. I get angry watching him try to field shortstop, and he can't play outfield either. So that's the problem. It's like, where does he play? And watching Jimenez play shortstop, it's like watching a shortstop play versus, Amed Rosario. He's not a shortstop.
The biggest issue is of other players there.
Yeah, it is, because I've tried to figure out where do you fit him in this lineup, and I'm not sure if he's even injured right now. I think it might be a phantom injury where
honestly, I think he's getting I think he's just getting unlucky. He's got like a 91% zone contact percentage.
Oh yeah, his average skills are good for sure.
I think he's gonna be fine if he
can play.
If he can play, and the problem is he may just get kind of Wally pipped because there's guys who can play just well enough on that team at every spot.
Who do you play him over? I think that Kwan, Owen Miller.
You're not playing him over Kwan. I think once the Owen Miller fairy dust kind of goes away, he's maybe, probably the guy.
Yeah, probably.
But Michael, where are you at on Rosario?
Yeah.
He's just the guy to me. I wrote a lot of a lot of primers and a lot of preseason stuff, and every one I said, just what's really the ceiling? What are we really expecting? And I get the batting average. I don't know how much I really buy the profile for him. I think he's fine. I prefer him to be a middle infielder type who can hit 270 with 13 steals maybe. There's value there, but he's kind of just the guy for me. And I don't know where he's playing. He's terrible in the outfield. I don't think Owen Miller is a very good player at all. So I think that's probably his clearest path to playing. But yeah, he's fine, but he wasn't anybody I was targeting. I don't think I have any shares. I wasn't avoiding him, but if I drafted him, I wasn't going to be excited either. It was just going to be all right, I guess I got Amed Rosario this year.
I think Rosario brings up a really interesting strategy faux pas that maybe we don't talk about, because it's okay to draft bad baseball players if they have something that makes them worthwhile in fantasy. You shouldn't be drafting Mondeci where Mondeci was going, but if Mondeci was going where Amed Rosario was going, he'd make a lot of sense as a gamble, right?
Yeah.
Amed Rosario didn't have that upside and is really, really bad as just a baseball player.
He's a better hitter. He makes much more
an awful defender.
Mondeci. Right, he is. Yes.
He makes him equally bad as a baseball player. Plus, he doesn't walk at all. Not that Mondeci does.
My thought was he can hit 285 with 20 to 25 steals. That was what I thought he could do.
Well, and see, for me, it was I thought he could hit 270.
His last two full seasons were 282 and 287. The 285 is right in line with that.
And I thought he could be maybe a 12-20 guy.
He's run 35 times. He's run 30 times. And then starting in 2020, he just kind of stopped running. But he's 26 years old. He's on a team that has nothing to play for. Well, theoretically, had nothing to play for. And Cleveland likes to run. So 13 seemed like a floor to me. I thought 20 plus would be pretty easy, and I still think that he can do that. He just needs to get on base more. But
he doesn't walk.
He was also hitting second, and now he's down to sixth in the maybe
he's a career 4.6% walk guy.
Yeah, he does not walk.
And that's the problem. If he's not walking, it's harder to be on base. He's a career.
But if you're hitting 285, that's
career 306 on base percentage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think in 15s you got to hold on to him, but in 10s and 12s, I think you move on.
Yeah, I've definitely dropped him in my 12s.
I do think the contact percentages tell me he should be better than this.
Yeah.
The problem is I do worry that the playing time, the team itself is going to look and go, he's bad defensively. His on base percentage is probably sub 300 or close to 300. And that's not playable. That the team says, listen, we don't play fantasy baseball, so you're not valuable to us.
Yep. That's the fear.
Oh. All right, that's going to wrap us up for an extremely long episode. Michael, thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us for so late. I apologize.
Appreciate it, buddy.
No apologies needed. This was a fun time, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
remind everywhere where you can reach on social media and plug all your work.
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Michael Waterloo. A lot of baseball talk, a lot of Vladdy Jr. tweets and Anna Kendrick tweets. Again, Anna Kendrick, if you're watching, slide right in those DMs. They're wide open for you. And you can find my work at The Athletic, at Fantasy Pros, and at The Game Day.
My DMs are open for Anna Kendrick as well. But Dave, where can you be reached? What are you working on?
Yeah, sure, why not? My DMs as well, Anna. If you want to stop by, feel free. You can find me at Run D McD on Twitter. We do the 2 starts at Rotosaurus. We do for the current week and then the following week as well. To kind of give you a jump start if you're trying to get guys a week early, so you don't have to pay up for the guys who are currently 2 starting in Fab. We got some other stuff coming. We're starting to get rolling over there, and that's kind of that. Managing my career high like 17 leagues this year. I've never done this many leagues, so which I know is a slow year for Justin, but
it's more than I'm doing this year, baby.
Oh no shit! How many you have?
Yeah, 15, baby.
And you held to that, so you are still currently married. Okay, all right.
Or 16 actually. 16 is what I finished with.
Okay.
15 redraft.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm like 1 ahead of you. That's so weird.
Yeah.
So I feel like you were like triple my leagues last year.
I was. I did 29 leagues last year.
Yeah. I think I did like 8, 9, something like that. Yeah.
This is great. Like I said, I think I can't remember if I said it on the air or not. I'm only doing, I think, 6 or 7 Fab leagues. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
you
amazing.
said it only takes you an hour somehow to do 6 or 7 Fab leagues, but that's crazy.
Awesome.
Well, good for you. Now you actually can enjoy your life a little bit.
You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. Email me or the show, friendsoffantasybenefits at gmail.com. You can read my written work on friendsoffantasybenefits.com, on Fangraphs and TGFBI.com. Hear me on this podcast, Sleeper in the Bus podcast, and the TGFBI podcast. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Michael, Dave, and myself, thank you for listening. A fantastic baseball season.